Hey, what's up everyone? Luke here with a brand new video. Thank you for joining in. So today we're doing a one-pack build using only base game and Blooming Rooms kit, which is currently free, so I would recommend getting it because in my opinion it's one of the better kits, and even if you don't like it, hey, it's a free pack. Unfortunately, to my knowledge, it's only free for PC and Mac players, so I'm sorry for all you console players, but it appears that you won't get the pack for free, unfortunately. Anyway, let me tell you a bit more about this build here. So, as I said before, it's a one-pack build, so I only use base game and the Blooming Rooms kit, and I want to build a more modern house. I wanted it to be rather small, and I built this in Willow Creek on my favorite lot here because it has the best lighting in this world, in my opinion at least. So the Blooming Rooms kit has a few very nice items which you will see later on, for example the hanging plant, which I almost used too much in my opinion at this point, but there are also some very nice potted plants, but also some objects that are a bit weirder, which I don't like to use very frequently. I tried to use as many objects as I could here, but of course I didn't use all of them, because I feel like some of the objects don't really fit together even though they come with the same kit. Blooming Rooms also doesn't match particularly good with base game in my opinion. I don't know why, but whenever I try to use this kit with just base game, I kind of struggle building something that I'm satisfied with. I like this house here, it's not my best work, but I hope you guys like it. And I tried my best here building something aesthetically pleasing, which is also functional of course. And here comes my old arch nemesis, this staircase, because these things are just horrendous to use in the game. I really hate using staircases, especially when I'm building things like this house here, which has medium height walls for the first floor. And the staircases take up so much space, but as usual, I don't want to use a ladder here because, let's be honest, nobody has ladders in their house to reach the second floor. Anyway, it turned out fine. I also like how the house looks now. And this is the beauty of building, because sometimes you don't plan on having to add additional walls or rooms to the build, but usually they end up fine, and I'm also pretty satisfied how this looks. I also wanted to add a carport here because I really like the last one, which we did for the nostalgic Japanese inspired home. I'm gonna put that somewhere in the screen if you want to check it out. Anyway, I wanted to add a similar carport to this build here because I think it really fits the aesthetic here. It's so simple and clean looking, which was what I was going for with this build here. But as usual, if you have any criticism for me or any feedback, let me know in the comments below. I always appreciate that. So I'm aware that a lot of you are waiting for the Japanese inspired dorm, and I will finish it. I just encountered some problems that need solving before I can upload it to the gallery, and I wanted to finish this build here first because I'm not sure how much longer the Blooming Rooms kit will be for free. And to be honest, I didn't realize it was for free until like a few days ago because I already had it, already bought it like when it was first released. And I know there are a lot of people who don't buy packs for whatever reason, so I wanted to build something that is available for free for everybody. But as I said before, I'm not sure how much longer this kit will be free, so better hurry up. By the way, I'm not sponsored or anything, I just want to get the word out because I want as many people as possible to be able to get this thing for free since packs are so expensive. But now let me tell you a bit more about this build here. So it's intended for 2 sims. As usual, my houses are rather small. Let me know if you want to see bigger houses. I have a really big house in my gallery. It's like for 10 sims, at least when it comes to bedrooms, so it's a mansion. It's also a one-pack build for which I used only cottage living and base game of course. But this house here is only for 2 sims because there isn't more space. As I said before, I wanted to build a smaller house. If you need more space, you might want to attach an additional room somewhere. On a bigger lot, of course, because this one here is already filled to the brim. So as usual, we have an open room concept here on the first floor. So we have our kitchen, dining area, and the living room all together. So because there wasn't enough space, I had to place the bathroom upstairs, which is a bit unusual. And I'm not a huge fan, but it is what it is. So for the colors, I decided to go with lighter wood tones, lots of white, but I also used some of the more colorful swatches for certain objects to make them stand out a bit more, which was kind of necessary because a lot of the objects from Blooming Rooms kit are kind of flashy. And I'm not even sure if I have used this. I'm not even sure what this is. This shelf here, is it a shelf? Which looks pretty cool, and I didn't want to use it in white because it's a bit boring, so I decided to go with a more interesting swatch with the green and this kind of orange brownish color here. So this is one of the problems I was talking about earlier. These accent tables, I think that is what they are. They're very cool swatches, but the problem here is the glass on top, because for almost all of the swatches, it is blue. And the blue doesn't fit with anything here, so I had to go for the white ones, which are the only ones who have the more neutral glass. I also have to say that I almost scrapped this house because I couldn't figure out the layout at first, so I had to cut a lot of this video because I was just going back and forth, deleting objects, placing them somewhere else, then starting from scratch. And I always make the same mistake, as you can see here, because this table has 4 chairs here, and the one in the corner is usually not usable if they're too close to the back wall here, and so I had to move it a bit more to the center of the room, which looked odd, but now it's functional. I also had this half wall here to kind of separate the living room at least a little bit from the rest of the house, but I'm pretty satisfied with how the living room turned out. I think it looks interesting. I tried to get it out of my comfort zone because I feel like it's boring to use the same objects over and over again, and having white furniture and white walls is always a safe choice, but it's also quite boring in my opinion, so I tried to get some color in here, even though I used a lot of white and gray anyway. So as usual, I used a lot of clutter, and those of you who watch my videos more frequently are aware that I am a man who likes his houses cluttered. What the heck is going on? I'm sorry. Anyway, as you can see, I was just throwing clutter at these coffee tables here, trying to figure out where to put what, which swatches to use, and I wanted to have even more plants on the accent tables here, so I used some from base game as well. By the way, a lot of these nice plants you can see right now are actually custom content, so they're not included in the pack, and I never used them before. I downloaded them like, I don't know, a year ago, and I never used them for some reason, because I don't use custom content. I wanted to, but I feel like it would be annoying for you guys to download the content as well, and this would restrict my builds to people who are actually willing to download the custom content, so I prefer not to use it. Even though there are some really nice objects in here. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to use custom content for the occasional build. Obviously, I won't use it for all of my future builds, but I might do a video if enough people are interested in that. So as I said before, let me know in the comments below. So at this point, I think the house looked pretty good from the inside, at least the first floor, because I didn't do much for the second floor. We only have the bed there. And so I started with the landscaping here, and I wasn't sure if I wanted the landscaping to be more modern or more rustic, so I decided to go for a mix. And so I used the mossy rocks, but I also added some more modern, clean looking elements later on. By the way, this object here is also from the Blooming Rooms kit. It looks very nice, and I know I said I don't want to use too much white here, but it was the only color that kind of worked here. I like the yellow. I also like the green one, which is some kind of pastel mint green, which looks really nice. This object here is also great, but I don't like the swatches for the pots. They're too colorful. I think they don't really fit this build here. But now we're moving on to the second floor, and as I said before, we have a bathroom right here. And in retrospect, this is also a good placement for the bathroom here, because I was able to put the bed against the wall here, which looks much nicer than before. And this way you can also look out the window while lying in bed, which is a bit unusual for my builds. And there was somebody who left a comment in one of my videos asking me, and you guys of course, if you place your beds against the wall so you simply can look at the window. And I thought about this, and I think I never did it before, so I wanted to do it with this build here because it made sense. It was also very convenient for me to place it like this. It would probably make more sense if this house was on a different lot with a more picturesque surrounding, I would say, because here you're looking at a suburban neighborhood and your view is mainly the street, so I would say you should probably place it somewhere else. I also wanted to have plants on the roof, and as you can see, I started to add bushes to the roof because I didn't want to do too much landscaping here, so I decided to have more plants on the roof. And it doesn't come as a surprise to me that the Blooming Rooms kit doesn't include any outdoor plants, or at least any plants that are specifically outdoor, because they're all potted or hanging or stuff like that, but we don't have any flowers or bushes or trees, which makes sense. And so I exclusively use base game for the roof here, but not for the rest of the garden area. Even though the garden is very small, I ended up removing parts of the fence here because it felt very constraining, and I wanted the garden area to be a bit more open. Actually, if you look at the finished build, there's not much grass left because I used a lot of platforms here for the patio, but we also have another patio, which we will see in a second. But we also have the pool area here, which also takes up a lot of space, almost 2/3 of the backyard. But I wanted to have a bigger pool area here and I think it's fine because we have so much greenery on the roof here. And this is also a very small lot. It's only 20 by 15, so if you want more lawn area, you should probably move this to a different lot that is a bit bigger than this one. This way you could probably add an additional bathroom downstairs or an additional bedroom, which shouldn't be too difficult because you could basically just copy the bedroom and place it next to the house, creating some kind of annex. Or you could simply place it somewhere else on the lot, add a kitchen and a bathroom, and this way you have some kind of guest house or at least more space for your Sims. So as you guys can see, there's not much lawn left here, and I think this is the biggest flaw of this house. But we're focusing on blooming rooms, not blooming gardens, so I think it's not too much of an issue, even though I would have liked to have more lawn space. Also decided to get rid of the bar here and add some deck chairs to our patio in the back here. So to frame a front lawn here, I used these size down debug objects, which look pretty good in my opinion. And as you're probably aware, the reason for that is that you can place fences, walls, or half walls directly at the border, which is really annoying in my opinion because it's kind of restricting. So I'm glad that we have these debug objects here. So another thing I wanted to address, which I almost forgot, I received a message on Instagram which seemed kind of concerned, and I read it, but I didn't respond because it was really late at night. It was almost 2 in the morning, and I just wanted to say thank you for your concern. I'm good. I'm not discouraged or anything. I try to figure out why you would think that, maybe because I just sporadically post on Instagram, but I have to admit that it sometimes is a bit frustrating if you make a video or build something you think will perform very well, but it doesn't perform at all. But I think that's just how YouTube works, and you can't really do anything about it except trying to constantly improve your content, which I try to do. But anyway, thank you for the message. I'm glad that you enjoy my content. I hope you're still watching. I tried to respond the next day, but it seems like you deleted your account or changed your name because I couldn't find you, and the message was also gone. So that's that. Now back to the build. As you can see, the exterior looks pretty good here. I decided to get rid of the fence in the back because it was just a bit too much in my opinion. It looked kind of cramped. Also didn't want the table here to be on the ground, so I decided to place another patio in the back corner here, which is quite big in my opinion, but I decided to keep it because we also have the barbecue here. As you can see, there's not much lawn left here, which is kind of a pity, but as I said before, you can always put it on a bigger lot if you want more lawn space. Also use the same mossy rocks here, which I used for the front yard. So in the stone circle here is actually a tree, which you can't always see because it's a debug object and they kind of disappear when you get too close, which is kind of annoying. And as I said before, for the garden area, I used mainly objects from base game because we don't have any unpotted plants in the kit since it's the Blooming Rooms kit. So here you can see one of my favorite objects from this kit, which is a curtain, or at least you can find it in the curtain section because it's supposed to be attached to windows or doors. This hanging plant here is also a great object, but I think I used too many here and I ended up deleting the one in the hallway here because it was just a bit too much. So the bathroom was basically finished. I just added some more decorations here. For example, these bath mats, rope and toilet paper, which I tend to forget until the very last moment. So in comparison to my usual bathrooms, this one here is pretty big. We also have the full set of appliances, a sink, a toilet, a shower, and also a bathtub here. I like to put big windows next to the bathtub, which is kind of fortunate that we're on the second floor now because this way nobody can see inside. So at this point I was just finalizing the house, placing the last missing objects here, for example some lights, some additional decorations, some clutter. I didn't use too much terrain paint for this build because it was kind of unnecessary since the majority of the lot is covered by stuff, I would say. With the pool, we have the patios, we have the concrete, we have the house. And since we have a rather clean garden area, it also looked a bit odd. So I decided to keep it clean and simple, at least for the exterior, because inside I started to clutter the shelf space here, which I almost forgot because I was so busy figuring out where to put stuff in the bedroom and the bathroom. And to place all the objects here on the shelves, in case you're unfamiliar with this mod, it's called the OMSP shelf, which is also called just Red Shelf mod. It's very useful if you want to place stuff on top of things which don't have slots for it, or stuff that usually can't be placed on top of each other. I'm gonna put the mod in the description below if you're interested in checking it out. It's super duper useful for all builders. If you want to improve your builds, you might want to check it out. You can also use regular shelves for the same purpose, but this one here has more slots and it is basically a staple mod for builders in my opinion. And with that, we're almost at the end of the video. I was just cluttering these shelves here, which are also from the Blooming Rooms kit. They got a bit of IKEA aesthetic to them, so I really like them. Because as you might know, I'm a bit of a sucker for IKEA products. I just like how they look, I like the whole experience. And to place the clutter here, I used a different mod called the Tool mod, which is even more useful than the red shelf mod because it basically allows you to scale objects, elevate them, lower them down, place them where you usually can't place them, so it's very useful. It seems a bit complicated at first, but it's actually super easy, so if you want to check it out, I'm also going to put it in the description below. So one thing I want to mention, this house is of course play tested and fully functional and available on the gallery, so if you want to download it, you can of course. My ID is in the description below if you want to download this, but if you do, please don't forget to leave a like, it helps me out a lot, it's the easiest way to support the channel. And with that, we're at the end of the video, and before I show you the finished build, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know if you have any feedback for me. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. See you next time. Hey, what's up everyone, Luke here with a brand new video. Thank you for joining in. Today we're building a Japanese inspired house here in Mount Komorebi. So it has been a while since we built anything for this world. I think the last one was the modern family home, which I'm gonna link somewhere on the screen here. But now, without further ado, let me tell you a bit more about this particular build here. This time I wanted to do a one-pack build, so this house uses only base game and Snowy Escape, which is actually one of the best packs in the game, so if you're not sure what you want to get, Snowy Escape is certainly a good choice. Of course, only if you're interested in building things like this house here, because after all, the pack is mainly influenced by Japanese culture. So this house is pretty small, with the first floor here, which is only 6x4, and the second floor, which is only 5x4. Initially, I planned on having 2 bedrooms in here for a family of 3, but it didn't work out because I didn't have enough space upstairs, and I didn't want the house to be too cramped, so I decided to go for a single bedroom. So it's a house for 2 Sims now. And I know a lot of you guys want houses with more bedrooms because you play with bigger families, and I promise the next build will have more bedrooms because it's actually the Japanese inspired dorm. So recently I uploaded a short and you guys really seem to like this aesthetic here, which is a bit more modern than this one, and I want to build the dorm next because I think this could be fun, and since we have for rent now, it would also be functional, I guess. I'm not sure. I don't own for rent because for some reason I never got it. I wasn't too interested in the world or the objects or anything. But to my knowledge, you can split up a lot into up to 6 units, which would be perfect because we would have 6 bedrooms and some common areas. For example, I want to do a kitchen, a games room, and I also want the bathroom to be on the hallway. So basically a shared bathroom for all units. I think that could be fun, so I'm gonna build that next, especially since you guys seemed interested in that. But now finally back to the build here, because I haven't told you much about this one here. So I wanted to use different wall patterns here. I think I never used the blue greenish one here like ever, but I really like it here. I think it looks almost perfect, so I try to use things that I haven't used before more often, because I also get bored by using the same objects over and over again. I also use base game roofing here, but I wanted to use only windows and doors from Snowy Escape because I think they fit best here. This time we also have a carport, and not a garage, a carport, which will be accessible later on because it's basically a rooftop patio, or rather large balcony basically. It's basically a small rooftop garden because later on I added some planter pots here. So these plots of grass here are also very useful. They come in a lot of shapes and they're actually base game. They're great for adding some additional detail, and I think they fit the aesthetic here very well. And what I associate with Japanese houses, I think I said it in my last video as well, is ACs. For some reason I think they're much more common in Japan than where I live. I think almost nobody here has an AC in their private homes. I also think it's a nice little detail just to give it a little bit of extra realism here. So for my fence I also used debug objects here, mainly because I don't like using regular fences as fences because they basically restrict you to the grid. You can also not build them directly on the edges of the lot, which is kind of frustrating. So I tend to use debug objects more frequently. I think they look very nice here, and I think they also fit the aesthetic. So one thing I have to say here is that Snow Escape has some of the best plants in the game here. I really like the trees, I really like the bushes, and we also get a nice variety of debug plants here, which are very usable for landscaping, especially for builds like this one here, which are supposed to look a bit more overgrown. Because those of you who watch my videos more frequently are probably aware by now that I usually tend to do very excessive landscaping. That's just my personal style. I mean, I have done some more modern builds with simpler landscaping, but this is what I prefer. I also think it fits here because I wanted to build a more suburban house with this one here, and I think this looks like you could find it on the outskirts of a major city. So as I said before, the only restriction for this build was that I was only allowed to use base game and Snowy Escape. There were no budget restrictions or anything, and I think the final build is around 36,000 simoleons, somewhere around that, maybe a bit more. So this is not really a starter home, but as I said before, it was also not the goal to build a starter home. So a major portion of the garden area here is pretty much completely unusable because it's overgrown by plants. And I also added some ponds, so we have one in the front and one in the back here. By the way, if you're interested in more builds like this one here, I have a separate playlist on the channel for just Mount Komoribi or Japanese inspired builds. So if you're interested in checking that out, I'm gonna put it in the description below, or you can simply go to my channel and look through the playlists. And if you don't own any packs, don't worry, there's also a base game playlist, which I'm also gonna put in the description below. So at this point I was pretty satisfied with how the build looked, but I still wanted to add more plants here. I also planned on using a utility pole and some power lines here because for some reason I associate power lines with Japanese architecture, and I think this is because when you watch like a documentary, a movie, or an anime, you see almost absurd amounts of like traffic signs, utility poles, power lines, and I think this is very distinctive for the picture that most people in the West have about Japanese architecture. And so I wanted to use a utility pole. Unfortunately, it's not really possible to connect it to anywhere, so I simply omitted it. And I think the build looks better without it. So as I said before, this build is only Japanese inspired, so I don't make any claims that this looks accurate. This is just my interpretation. But if there are any people here who might be qualified to judge this build in terms of authenticity, please feel free to leave a comment below. I always appreciate feedback to improve my building skills or learn something new. But I think this build fits the aesthetic of Mount Komoribi quite well, even if it's most likely not completely accurate to Japanese architecture. But after all, I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. So as you guys know, I never upload anything I'm not completely pleased with, which is also one of the reasons why I upload very inconsistently. Still working on that, still working on a schedule after like 3 years now. But a lot of you guys told me that they prefer inconsistent uploads over inconsistent builds, so I have certain standards. Usually my builds are functional and play tested, because I want you guys to be able to download these houses if you want to and use them in your game. I think that's the point for most people as well who play the game more like it's intended to be played, like with having several families as a life simulation. And that's also the reason why I usually make sure that my builds are functional. I also try to build stuff that's interesting and new, so I don't like to repeat myself because it's boring for me and it's boring for you guys. And also if I don't think a build is good enough, I usually don't upload them. I have so many builds that are just saved to the gallery, which I might finish at some point. But what I upload is usually what I consider the quote-unquote quality stuff, and I hope you guys can see that. But enough about that for now, so back to the build. As you guys can see, we have a very nice patio here, which takes up a huge portion of our backyard. We also have the second pond here, which I was talking about earlier, and I also added a staircase here. Another ladder, I want to have a staircase to our rooftop patio here on the carport. So these planter pots here are usable, but only the front portion, because if you put them against the wall like I did here, you can't access the two slots in the back, but I would still consider them functional. I also added a telescope here, and I replaced the privacy fence and added an additional fence to our two patios here. This time I decided to go with lighter wood tones than I would usually use because this house is pretty small, and I think with smaller builds like this one, it's especially important to utilize strategies to make them feel a bit bigger than they actually are, which I think I did only partially achieve because the bedroom feels very cramped. You will see that in a minute. So moving on to the interior, I first started to add some lights here and then a wooden flooring. And as I said at the beginning of this video, I wanted to have two bedrooms at first, which was unfortunately not feasible because The second story is only 5 by 4 tiles, so one bedroom would have been like a 2 by 2, which is way too small. You can barely fit a bed in there and basically nothing else. And this would have been kind of unrewarding in my opinion, so I decided to go for a house for just 2 Sims and use our extra space here for like storage and stuff. So as I'm recording this, I wonder if Japanese bedrooms are actually upstairs and if there are any standards where they're supposed to be located or if they are supposed to be open like mine here. And to be honest, I might have to check for my next build because this was really fun to build, and I think I'm gonna do more houses like this one here. Maybe put them all together like a small neighborhood or like a suburban street. Again, let me know in the comments below if you would be interested in that. So one thing I know for sure, and this kind of bothers me, is that you would probably not have your dining area like right in the front of the house, which unfortunately was the only place I could put it because I wanted to have some kind of living room area as well, and the whole first floor is basically just one big open area here, not counting the bathroom to the left. But it is what it is now. I still like how the house looks, even though I think it's probably not very authentic. Again, let me know in the comments below if you're familiar with Japanese houses, but after all, we're building The Sims here, and Mount Komorebi is a fictional region, and that's also the reason why I just called this Japanese inspired. By the way, Mount Komorebi, I was like when I realized what Komorebi actually means. And I think it describes the way sunlight is filtered through leaves, or the play of sunlight through leaves basically, which is very interesting to me because I think other languages don't have a specific word for this. And I think people in Western cultures focus too much on the light and not on the connection between these two opposites. And now it's getting kind of poetic here. I'm no expert, but I just find it fascinating that there's a specific word to describe this phenomenon. Back to our build here, we have a very small kitchen, as you can see. I wanted to add some plants with the bonsai here. And we're also going to use our trusty cedar bar wall decoration here for some additional detail. So with these aprons here, I think I have to use a different swatch, but this is basically one that fits everything. It's neutral and very nice in general. I wish we had a single apron as well for smaller kitchens like this one here. So another thing I just realized while recording this, I didn't add a trash can here. We have one, but I used it as a custom pot for this plant here, which looks pretty nice. I also added some debug dirt to cover the original vase. So initially I wanted our dining area to be further to the back here, but I had to move it to the front, which kind of bothers me because this was the only way to place it, since I want to have some kind of living room area here as well. So as I said before, everything here is functional, even though it's a bit cluttered. I also added some additional windows to the back here because, as I said before, with smaller houses like this one, you need to make sure that it doesn't feel too small. And I initially also wanted to use furniture from Snowy Escape, but I think I overused the couch and this chair with the fur on it, so I decided to go with the base game couch. I also used a kind of odd color for the screen here, and I wanted to have this very old-fashioned TV here sitting on a small table, like you could move it out of the way if you needed a bit more space or if nobody is watching TV, for example. Also wanted to use this wall-mounted shelf here you see to the left, but I ended up removing it because there was basically no space and here it was blocking the staircase. So I just added some wall decorations from base game here instead. So moving on to the bathroom here, I wanted to use a very old-fashioned looking bathtub, but I couldn't find one that I really liked, and there's only one included in Snowy Escape, so I decided to use this one, which looks a bit too modern in my opinion for this particular house, but I still kept it here because I didn't want to use a shower, and I kept the bathroom very basic, so nothing too special here, nothing out of the ordinary. It's also fully functional, of course, and it's rather large in comparison to what I usually build, so I could have used this room as a second bedroom and put the bathroom upstairs, but at the time it made more sense to me to have the bathroom downstairs. So this is our bedroom area, and again, I'm not sure if open bedrooms like this one here are very common. So in case you're wondering, the bed here is fully functional because I usually get some comments of people asking if the bed is functional or some people claiming that the bed is not functional. But if you place the bed against the wall like I did here, your Sims can simply scoot over, so it's not a problem. But keep in mind that the Sim sleeping on the wall side can't get out of the bed until the first one gets up, so that's one thing to consider if you're playing with houses like this one. So if one of your Sims has to like get up before the other, you might want to consider this. So one thing I don't understand with Snowy Escape is why we didn't get any traditional Japanese sleeping arrangements. For example, the futon, so your Sims can actually sleep on the floor, which would have been a nice addition for this expansion pack. However, I understand that they would have needed completely new animations for your Sims. I'm not sure if there are sleeping bags in the game, but if they are, they could have used this animation. I also like the bed, so don't get me wrong, the bed is good. I use it a lot, so also for other builds as well, but I think it would have been nice to have something different for the people who want to have like a more authentic experience with this world. So let me know what you think about this topic in the comments below. And also, if you made it this far into the video, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy my videos, since I always try to improve. And if you do enjoy my videos and if you watch them frequently, please consider subscribing if you're not subscribed already. So at this point, the build was almost finished. I was just trying to figure out the final arrangement for the bedroom. I also got rid of one of the windows here because it was basically blocked anyway. Also did some more cluttering here and there, not only upstairs but also downstairs, because I forgot that the kitchen counters from Snowy Escape have additional storage underneath, which I tend to forget because these counters are pretty unique. I'll use them a lot, still I forget to put any additional objects in the storage until the build is almost finished. And the storage is good and bad, because if you want to add some additional detail, some additional clutter to the build, it looks pretty cool. But if you don't want to put anything there, they look kind of empty and the build looks kind of unfinished in my opinion. So as I said before in the video, I feel like the bedroom is maybe a bit too cluttered. But I wanted to keep the dresser because I feel like it would be quite unrealistic to have no dresser at all in the house. I mean, where would you put your clothing? So I just kept it here and I think it looks alright. Even though it might be a bit too cluttered. You know me, I do a lot of clutter usually. It would be a challenge for me to not clutter too much, so I might try that in a future video. So we also have some additional storage here on the wall, which I think looks alright. These are from base game and I tend to use them a lot because I like how they look and I feel like they add some nice little detail to all your builds. Also changed the wall pattern upstairs and downstairs because I like the wood tone here, which matches with the rest of the build, and I also feel like the overall color of the wall is a bit warmer. So the only thing left to do was cluttering the kitchen and adding a little bit of terrain paint, not too much this time. I really like how the shelf from Snowy Escape fits in here. It's almost like it was made to be used with this exhaust note here. This is actually one of my favorite shelves. It looks so unique and interesting, and it's also usable because it has so many slots. I think I also used it for my French country bedroom in like green. It looked really great in my opinion, and what I also like about it looks rustic but also modern, so it's usable for all kinds of builds. So before we showcase the final build, I want to say thank you for watching again. Please don't forget to leave a like, especially if you want to download this. It's in the gallery, my ID is in the description below if you're interested in downloading it. That's it for today. See you guys next time. So The Sims 4 is currently a huge sale for a lot of packs, and backyard stuff is actually 100% off, so you can get this pack for free. So in my opinion, this is a rather weird stuff pack, and I'm also not sure why we get it for free, but I think it's because of the recent controversy surrounding the game, and also since a lot of people are playing offline to avoid broken mods and especially broken updates. This might be a sneaky trick to get people back online. However, it's still a free pack, so I would recommend getting it. I already owned it, so I didn't profit here, but you guys can. Until the 13th of April when the sale ends, and in today's video we'll put this pack to the test if it's any good for building, so I'm gonna use this pack here and base game of course to build a full house. As I said, it's a weird pack. I've never seen so many objects in a pack that don't really fit because they include like 3 rocks in a garden pack. Also the colors are pretty weird. As you guys can see, this is pretty colorful and it feels like nothing here matches anything. So it's a really weird pack as I said before, but some of the objects are pretty cool and I also use some of them quite frequently. There are also outfits included in the pack, but nothing that stands out in my opinion. But now without further ado, let's start building. So as you guys can see, we're here in Willow Creek, and we're gonna build on this lot here, which is a 20 by 15, which I think is a decent size for the build I'm going for. So let's turn on the grid. I think we should start around here. Gonna make it asymmetrical. I also want to add maybe a small nook around here. So I want to have a second story. I think I'm gonna go for 1 or 2 bedrooms. I'm not sure yet, but I want this area here to be the bedroom area. But I also want to use a staircase here, so we need a little bit more space up here. I would say we go for a 3 by 3 box probably here, which should be enough for a staircase here. And I think this might be a little bit too big, so I'm gonna make it a bit smaller. I think this is pretty good. Now we can start with the roofing. I think this looks pretty good. Add some stairs. So I'm not really sure about the color for this one, because the backyard stuff kit is very colorful, and I want to build something that's also very bright that matches the aesthetic of the backyard stuff pack. So as you guys can see, there are no wall patterns here for the backyard stuff kit. I think there's also no flooring, so we're gonna go with base game. We could use some pastel colors. I think I want to use the yellow. I think I'm not gonna use this one all over. Maybe for the second floor and up here we're just gonna use the plain yellow one. I also want to get some more neutral colors in here. I think this looks pretty good. I'm gonna use it for the rest of the house for now. I think this is a bit boring, so we're gonna go for more color. I think I want to add a second color to this, but keep some of the beige here. Maybe some green. I'm not sure. Let's see what roof we can use before we add any additional colors here. This one here is quite good. I think I want to go with blue. I think this looks pretty cool. I think I'm gonna keep it for now. Let's add a door here so your Sims can actually get in here. I want to have a trim here, but not here. So I show you guys a trick in case you didn't know. So I'm gonna use the smooth keeper fence here because it's very flat. We're simply gonna place a fence right here. So you can't see it here, but what it does, it allows you to go to your trim section here, and you can use exterior trims here now. I think this looks pretty good. So which foundation to use? Personally, I think this one here fits very well. I think we need windows here as well. I have one window in mind that I want to use. Here it is, the craftsman. So since this pack focuses on the backyard, I think we should start working on our backyard here. And I want to have a patio. I think that's probably wide enough. So since we're focusing on the backyard stuff pack, I think our backyard should be as big as possible. I might have picked the wrong lot for this because it's pretty small. The house got a lot bigger than I expected. I think we should move the house a bit more to the front so we have a bit more backyard. Don't want it to be all the way in the front here. Let's move it 1 or 2 tiles. So with like 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles in the front. Could be more, but I think it's enough. I think we can start picking out our furniture for the patio area here. And I want to go with the backyard stuff, of course. Simply go to show all objects. I think this one is the dining table. Let's put it in here for now. I think we're gonna use this one here for our outside area because I want to use all of the objects, or at least one from each category. I think these chairs here look a bit better than this one here, and I also want to use the love seat. I'm not sure if this would be usable. These lanterns here are pretty good. I use them all the time, so let's place it here for now. Oh, the lemons, I want to use the lemons here. So let's see if the pack has any fences, and it looks like we have the white picket. Oh, I remember this one. This is a pretty good fence actually. You can use this for lots of builds. I think I don't want to use it here in the front because we would have to start here since you can't build directly on the border. And I don't want to start here because it would look kind of weird. I think we just start here all the way to the back. I don't want to completely enclose it. I think we should leave it open here like this. I think I'm gonna put some trees here, add some gates. This one here looks pretty good. Not sure if I should start with the landscaping around here, with the backyard or with the interior. So of course we need a door here. This one here looks pretty clean. I think we should decide on a color scheme for outdoor furniture. I think this one here looks pretty neat. Do we have any matching swatches for our bench here? If the chairs match, this would be perfect. This looks great. We need to add more windows on the backside. Place the bay window here. This looks like they're gonna fall over if somebody tries to sit here, and you could probably hurt yourself pretty bad if you fall down here. So we're gonna move everything a bit to the back. I'm not sure if people can sit here if it's too close together. I think it might not work. I'm gonna play test this, of course. Adding some bushes, making them smaller, just like this. So we want to have a very nice, luxurious backyard here. So we're gonna use the big grill. Guys, I think I made a mistake here. I kind of forgot about the long water slide that's included in this pack. I think we have no other option here, so I'm just gonna place it right here, I suppose. Maybe a bit to the back. I think this should be usable. I'm not sure if they can slide off a lot, but I think this should work. I'm gonna play test it anyways. This looks pretty cool. I think I should have used a bigger lot because our backyard here is already pretty cramped, but I guess that's just the theme for this build. So we have a very cramped, fun backyard with lots of colors. I think this should be fine. And if you guys don't want this in your backyard, you can simply get rid of it. And as you guys can see, there's much more space now. So there's some objects that are pretty hard to use. For example, this bush here. I'm not really sure where to place this because the color is so odd. So we conveniently place them behind our fence so we don't have to see much of them. But we use them, they're on the lot. Since this bush doesn't really fit anything from base game, I think I'm gonna avoid these and use just plants from base game for our front area here and then create a transition to the back. So what I want to use on this side here to get a little bit more yellow in are sunflowers. I also want to use some rocks here. I think the backyard stuff pack also comes with a birdhouse. I really don't like the color. I hope there is a more neutral swatch. I think we're just gonna go with the plain wooden one, which looks best in my opinion. I also want to have a bird bath here. I think it makes sense to have it right next to our birdhouse here. I think we should just add some flowers around here. Yellow flower should be good, and maybe some more neutral white ones. I think that's pretty good. I think it would make sense to figure out our layout here because it's something I always struggle with, even though this house is quite big in my opinion. I think we should place the staircase first and then see where it goes. I think I'm just gonna use this one here because I want to have a light wooden flooring. Okay, this is bad. Since we want to have our bedrooms right here, we can't really take away a lot of the room. I think I have to figure out a way around. Oh my god, I hate staircases, Jesus. Okay, maybe we can use it like this. I mean, it's basically in the middle of the house. I think there's no other way. We're just gonna keep it here. I could use a ladder, which would save a lot of space, but I feel like a ladder doesn't really fit most houses, so we're just gonna keep it like this. I think we should have a wall here. Maybe we have our kitchen area here, but it's pretty cramped, which I don't appreciate, so maybe we're gonna have the kitchen here, the dining area here, and this is just some nook, I guess. And the living room is insanely small, so it's a good thing we have a lot of space here, so we can extend this part of the house here, so the living room is not as small as it's currently here. It's so dark. I think we need windows here. So I want to have wooden flooring. I'm not sure how this happened here, but I want light colors inside, and this is too strong in my opinion, so we're gonna go for the pastels. I think this one here is much better for the interior. I think we're just gonna place our table here. I want to use a different swatch. I don't really like this one. I think we can use the same one that we used outside because the wood kind of fits the flooring here, and we also have the turquoise yellow and pink here, which looks pretty good. So I'm gonna add some chairs now. I don't want to use the same ones that I used outside. I think we can go with a different one. This one is from base game. I kind of want to use this ceiling light. I think I'm just gonna use this one here. So the backyard expansion comes with 3 rocks for some reason. I'm gonna use the flower one here. I think we just go with the gray, which looks good with the chairs as well. We're gonna put the kitchen right here because it makes sense. I can't really place it anywhere here since it's only, as you guys can see, 1, 2, 3 tiles here. And for a full kitchen, you basically need 4 because you have the fridge, you have the counter, you have the sink, and you've got your oven right here. And I also think it's a bit cramped here with the staircase. We're gonna put it all right here, so I think this is not an option. So we're gonna put our kitchen right here. We're gonna have a rather big kitchen. I don't want to clutter too much with this build. Should I go with the old-fashioned kitchen counters? I think I'm gonna use something different. So I rarely use this one. I feel like it's a bit too modern, but I think I'm gonna go with it. Base game really has some of the worst stoves in my opinion, except for this one here, which is just perfect. It's my baby. But the rest of them is pretty much atrocious. I think I'm just gonna use the basic white one here because I don't mind this one too much. But I mean, look at this shit here. I'm not even sure if this has any good swatches. Maybe the blue one looks a bit better. This one here just looks dirty and yellowed, so we're gonna go with the white one, which is a bit better. I also want to have tile here. I don't want it to go all the way up, so we're gonna go with this one here, which is half paint, half tile. We should just go for full wall here, and we can use an archway here. I think this one is pretty good. So this way you can go from the kitchen to your dining area here, which is no problem at all. We need to use this space here somehow. I think I'm gonna put a plant right there. This one here looks pretty good, but it's a bit big. I think I'm just gonna go with the base game citrus tree. Pretty nice. I like to use this watch here, and I also want to have some skill building items here. I think we can go for a guitar or something. Can use an easel here as well. I think we're just gonna place it here. This way it should be usable. We're gonna put this one here in the living room. So a lot of natural light, which is great here with the big window. I think we should connect this room from both sides here since we have extra space here. It's really bright here, so I think we need to move these lights here. Why is it so bright? Jesus. So now we have this very narrow room here where we basically can't place anything. This would be great for a TV here, but I can't put the sofa right here because you would be like a meter away, like 3 feet away. If I place the TV right here, that doesn't work, right? Okay, that's not working. So we basically have to move this further to the back. I think we don't even need much space here. We can extend the patio all the way to the back. Let's do it like this. We're gonna remove the wall inside, and we're gonna move the sofa to the back. Okay, I think that's adequate, okay? I think that should work fine. I feel like this is pretty good, even though you probably don't want a window behind you when you're watching TV, because you probably won't be able to see much if it's a sunny day, but it's The Sims, so I can do whatever I want, and I feel like this looks pretty good. I think we can have 2 bedrooms here. I want to have one master bedroom here for the parents and a smaller bedroom, apparently a much smaller bedroom for the kid here. It's basically a 3x2 room. This one here is a 4x3, which is a bit bigger. I think this works out, but it's not perfect. Okay, let's see what we can cram in here. I'm gonna start with the master bedroom first. One of my problems I had with base game is that it basically has no good beds. I really like this one here, but it could have better swatches, and the double beds are basically all, I don't know, this one here is alright, but the rest is pretty bad, and especially when you're looking for a specific style here. For example, I could use this one here. I think it would fit, but I know for a fact that this bed here has no swatches I would consider in here, and the problem is not necessarily the sheets, but it's the wood here. As you guys can see, I need to make sure that the wood matches either the window frames here or the flooring. Maybe we should use something I never use, like this bed here, which is pretty big. I'm not sure about this one. I mean, this kind of fits in here, but I'm not a huge fan. This one here, maybe, I think I never used this one. This one here is alright, but I think I want this one here because we have a yellow and we have our pastel pink here, which works pretty well, and we have a white frame here, which works with the windows. I also want to have some nightstands on both sides here, and this is also a problem because the nightstands are always so big. I always have to scale them down. How about some light? Pretty fitting. Gives me IKEA vibes. The nightstands especially. We need some lights here. I'm gonna go with my go-to base game nightstand lights here, which are these. I think I'm just gonna place them on top here, and I also want to have some books. I'm really glad that they added so many new swatches for these books here, because they had like 3 like these 3 here. We need to use our tool extension to put this on the nightstand. -2 should do the trick. Yeah, I think this looks pretty good. I want to keep this clean, so I'm not gonna do anything on the wall here. But what we need here is a dresser, because I would like to make my builds a bit more realistic, and also we have a lot of space to fill here. So this is also a big problem I have with base game. You can ignore these here. They are custom content. They're not really any good dressers. I like this one here because it's a bit more modern and basic looking. I'm gonna use this one. I also want to use these code regs here. We're gonna make them a bit smaller. Another one right here. I'm pretty familiar with base game at this point. I think building with only base game can be fun as well, because sometimes I don't feel like using a lot of packs, because sometimes it's a bit overwhelming and I like to keep it clean and simple. So I basically stick to base game and one other pack, which works out fine most of the time. So you don't really need a lot of packs. You can basically build awesome stuff just using base game. I think we can keep it like this. Maybe we can add an additional light here because it's pretty dark in this corner like this. I think that's pretty good. So moving on to our next room here, we have our second bedroom, and as you guys can see, it's like half the size of our other bedroom here. I think this is pretty small, but we can make it work. This is going to be a kid's bedroom or a teenage bedroom, and we only put in the essentials here, so basically a bed and a desk. So I want to use this bed here because, as I said before, this is one of the best ones. I also readjusted the windows here because they were a bit too high up. So this desk doesn't really fit in here. I think we need to use a kitchen counter. I wish I could use tiny living here because it comes with a smaller desk, which would fit perfectly here. Need to readjust the window once more. So as we use the counter here, I can't really use a chair, so we have to use a bar stool, which fits, I think. And we're gonna put a laptop in here and a lamp. I think that's it. There's not much more space. Just gonna use the silver one. I want a more modern lamp, something very basic. I think this one here. I also want a bookshelf, but I'm pretty sure this is not functional because it's behind the bed, but I'm gonna use it as a decoration here. So just a heads up, if you guys want to play with this, the bookshelf is probably not usable. Gonna replace the window here with the closed shutters. I think it makes sense with the computer here. I also noticed that there are no curtains in this house, but I feel like they're not really necessary. Also, there are not really a lot of good curtains in base game. So I just noticed I almost forgot to use these string lights here, which are also from the backyard stuff pack. And as I said before, I want to use all of the objects from the pack. So we're going to use these in here. I think it's very fitting. I think the yellow here is fine, but I want a different color for the walls. Let's go with blue. I think that's pretty good. So one more poster and I think we're done here. So now we have this really oddly shaped room here, which is basically necessary to reach the second floor. So I'm going to add some railing here. But I'm not a huge fan of this. We're gonna need to place something here. I think we could use a ladder. So this goes directly into the roof. But I've got an idea. Let me cook, guys. So if we get rid of the roof here, we can basically create a small rooftop patio or a balcony. But I'm pretty sure the ladder will mess up the lighting in the side. So I'm not sure about this. Okay, I'm gonna place a platform right here. And this way we have a balcony. Okay, this is getting complicated. More roofs, just like this. And our ladder got deleted again. Well, I think this looks pretty good. So I think it's time to add some railing right here. This really bothers me because, as you guys can see, part of the fence is missing here. I'm going to use this debug object here to fix it. It looks pretty good. I want to plant up here. I'm going to use our trusty old citrus tree. And I think a telescope would be nice. I think this way should be usable. So guys, as you can see, the lighting in here is pretty bad. And down here, it's even worse. So this is due to this hole here caused by the ladder. So we need to close this up. I'm not sure if this will be functional. What I'm going to do here is copy this roof and I'm going to place it right here. As you guys can see, this way you can drag the eave here to close it up. I'm going to use the sheet metal roof here. So this way, this looks like a cover here for our hatch. And if you want your Sims to be able to access the balcony here, you can simply use the eaves here. Drag this way they can access the roof. I'm not sure what happened here. This should be fine if we move this. You can simply close this up like this if you want to, but I prefer symmetrical, so we're gonna drag it all the way over here. I hope this is functional. I'm gonna show you guys at the end of the video if this is usable or not. So the lighting is still off, but I think I got a solution for this. We can close the ladder here. This should fix our lighting. As you guys can see, the lighting is back to normal. Let's just add a door here. This should work. I hope this works. So guys, I made a mistake. We don't have a bathroom, and I don't think there's any space down here to place it. With this area here, there's basically no room for anything since we have the double door here. Can't place it right here. And I wasted this room here for an additional bedroom. So I think we have a problem here. I think we have only one place to put the bathroom, which would be here. But I don't want to do a 3x1 bathroom. This is not enough. I think I'm just gonna make this room a bit bigger because I don't want to get rid of this bedroom here. So let's just move this by one. Add a wall, add a door, add lights. This bathroom here is pretty big, so I want to use a nice bathtub right here. So this should all be functional, and I think I'm gonna put the sink here. We're gonna need tile in here and tile flooring. Let's add a mirror, and I think I want a rope here, the basic white one right here. I'm gonna lower this window down so you can see outside. I know, this is not ideal because people can see inside, but I like this, so we're gonna keep it. So guys, I forgot to finish the kitchen, which we're gonna do now. I think I want tile on one side, but we're gonna keep the yellow here. Let's add some cabinets. So I really hate that this is not connected because of the window. So I'm gonna use a shelf right here. This is actually much better. I really wish this stove hood here would have some swatches, but as you guys can see, can't use the design tool here. We use a microwave, probably not. I want a coffee maker, some coffee beans right next to it. Okay guys, I know I said I don't want this house to be too cluttered, but this is what it is. I put some stuff in the fridge here, and I also finished the entry area here. So we have a mirror here and a chair to sit down to tie your shoes or whatever. There are a few objects from the pack left that I didn't use. The Plumbot box, I'm not sure what this is. I think this is a speaker, I'm not sure. I'm just gonna put it up here, I suppose. So we also didn't use this accent table here, the rug rack. I'm gonna place it right here. I think this looks pretty decent. There's also a candle, which we didn't use before, and this one is way too big. I'm gonna scale it down. One thing I really hate about candles is that the flame doesn't scale. So if I make this smaller, it just stays in place and it also keeps the size. So you can't really make candles that much smaller. As you guys can see, I would say this already looks a bit suspicious. I think the living room is done. Looks pretty decent. So I also found these, which are apparently outdoor lights, and they have a lot of cool swatches, but they are also very colorful, so I just used them in the backyard because I feel like they don't really fit here. Ooh, a bird feeder. This is also included in the pack, by the way. As you guys can see, I also finished the landscaping here, added some decent outdoor lights. Also added this path here and terrain paint around the lot. So apparently there are more objects included in this pack than I thought. So here we have the butterfly thingy, which can be found in sculptures, and this frog-shaped rug here. So I'm not really sure why they included 3 rugs in a backyard themed pack, but hey, we get some additional objects and some people might like this. I'm not a huge fan, I just placed it here because I want to use every object from the pack. Found another one. This one here is called Feeling Froggy, and I think it's a pond decoration. I'm just gonna place this fella right here. So here guys is the finished build. I really enjoyed building this house, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, consider subscribing, and now here's the finished build for you guys. See you next time. Telescope works. Nice. Hey guys, Luke here. Welcome back to another Sims 4 video on my channel. So today we're building the tiny overgrown forest hut, which was the clear win of a poll I did a few days ago, and you guys said you wanted to see this build here next, and so I finished it. It was basically done. I think it was even play tested, but just to be sure, I play tested it again, and it's of course on the gallery if you want to download it. So this house is very small, as you guys can see. It's a hut. I called it a hut. It's just for one sim, and it also uses only one pack. So if you guys want to download this, it's the werewolves expansion, which I like to use a lot, especially for builds like this one here. There's just so many cool plants included, and also this roof pattern here, which I like to use a lot, especially for abandoned looking builds, but also some like this one here, which are in a very, I would say, moist environment. We have a pond here, which you will see in a second, and I tried to merge the landscaping here with the environment because I built this in Copperdale, as you're probably aware. This is my favorite lot there. It's called Little Falls Nook. It's a 20 by 20, so if you guys want to place it in the same lot, it's also in the description below. So as I said before, I only used the werewolves expansion and none of the objects from the high school expansion pack, which Copperdale comes with. So Copperdale is included in this pack, not in the werewolves pack. But I wanted to build here because I don't like the world that comes with werewolves, which is Moonwood Mill. And the reason for that is very dark. I can't see very well there, and I feel like the world is also very boring. I talked about the whole issue I have with the Moonwood Mill in a different video, but just to sum it up, it's dark, it's boring, it's generic, and I personally don't like it. The pack included some nice objects though, which was also the reason why I wanted to build with it, especially for builds like this one, of course, which also looks like a werewolf could live here in my opinion. So just a quick tip, if you're new to landscaping and find it hard to landscape in a way that the lot fits the environment, you can always use the plants and landscaping objects from the same pack the world comes with, because this way it's much easier to blend the lot with the environment, and I find it very helpful. I heard that from somebody, I can't remember, I think it was just a short video, but I found it very helpful and I was like, why did I never think about that? So I want to give you guys this tip, credit to, I don't know, I can't remember, I'm sorry. This tip is so basic and yet so useful, so I hope you guys can use it for your own builds. But I think it became less of an issue with newer packs like werewolves and high school, because the different shades of green kind of match each other now, at least some of the plants, which we didn't always have. There are some packs, I don't know which exactly, but I think it's Seasons. I don't know, Seasons is always in my head, but I think the plants from Seasons have a very specific shade of green. It's a lighter one. Some of them even look a bit yellowish, which is cool. I like that. They're just very hard to use with different packs for some reason. I don't know, I find it very hard to use them together. But sometimes you have the same problem with plants from the same pack. For example, it's not a pack, it's base game, but sometimes I'd like to use a specific plant, but I can't because the shades of green don't match, which is sometimes a bit annoying. So the landscaping here was a lot of fun. It felt easy, which is not always the case, because with like more overgrown builds like this one, I don't have to care too much about where your sims can walk, because this is basically a forest. And it also doesn't matter if it's symmetrical, it just has to look right. So a lot of the plants here are also from base game. I also used some of the fences and these very nice looking mossy rocks here, and also these stone slabs here to create this little path here to the cabin or hut or whatever you want to call it. So the exterior and landscaping didn't take too much time, as you guys can see. I also didn't use too much terrain paint here because we have this very big pond here, which takes up the majority of the lot. Basically, it's only a 20 by 20, so it's very small, but I think it's the right size for this type of build here. And at this point I started furnishing the interior here, so I was basically just figuring out where to put everything. We don't really have a layout here because at this point it's basically just one room. I added the bathroom later on because the house was so small and it felt a bit cramped, so I decided to add another huge window here, for which I used 4 smaller ones, as you guys can see, and this is the kitchen area. It's a bit of a shame that werewolves doesn't include a kitchen, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it would have been nice if they had some appliances here, because I'm kind of sick of using this stove here and the fridge, because for the more rustic builds there is basically nothing else that fits. And I like it in general, but I don't like to use it all the time, and I think it's also kind of boring for you guys. And the fact that it only has 3 different swatches doesn't improve the situation here. We have the black one, which I think is the best one, but I wanted to use a different one here, so I decided to go for the more, I don't know, rusty looking one. I would say this one here is rusty. And then there's also a white one, which I think also looks very nice, but again, I don't want to use the same object over and over. This is also a problem I have with the swatches in general, because for the more basic colors like brown, black and white, for example, also gray, the shades simply don't match, so it looks off. Sometimes even with objects from the same pack, which is even more annoying. This makes it very hard to combine certain objects which would look very nice together, but the colors simply don't match, or at least the shades don't match. And as I said before, this is also a problem with base game objects, because one of my newer builds is base game and it was very hard to furnish it because I was going for a very clean look, all in white, very elegant, and it was very hard to find white objects that had kind of the same shade because they all looked a bit different. And this really bothers me because if I remember correctly, in Sims 3 we had a color wheel. Correct me if I'm wrong here in the comments below, but I think you could choose basically any color you wanted. It even worked with different patterns. It's been a while since I played Sims 3, but I occasionally think about the color wheel option, and I'm not sure we don't have it in Sims 4 because this game is already 10 years old and it feels like such a basic feature which should have been there from the start. And I think the problem now is that we have so many objects from so many different packs that it would probably be a lot of work to include this option for every pack, which raises the question, why wasn't it there from the start? So I'm a bit annoyed, to be honest. It's not so much of a problem for builds like this one here, which are more rustic looking, so it kind of makes sense that there are different shades of brown and different types of wood included, which I like for this build. But it's kind of frustrating if you want a more uniform look, where the shade should always be the same, and you want to use, for example, a certain stove or a certain fridge, and it just doesn't fit the overall shade of white or black or whatever you're going for. So color wheel would be a nice addition in my opinion, but I'm pretty sure they will never include it in the game. So most importantly, because it's a lot of work, but I also feel like the developers don't really care because the game is selling anyway. So I haven't really looked into it, but I'm pretty sure there are mods out there that allow you to change the color of objects, not necessarily like a color wheel, but something similar. But I don't really want to use these because I upload my builds to the gallery, as you guys know, which is also the reason why I don't use custom content, because if you guys don't have the objects, they will get deleted or replaced by something from base game, for example. And I think the same problem applies with adding new colors and patterns, because if you don't have them, they will get removed or replaced. Again, let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Rant is over now because we're almost at the end of the video. So as I said before, you guys voted for this build to be the next upload, and I wanted to ask you guys if you want to do this more frequently, because this kind of helps me to upload more consistently, because I have to commit to finishing a build, which is not always easy for me, because this week I worked on I think 5 different builds which are all almost finished. And the reason for that is I start building because I have an idea or because I want to finish a build, but then I encounter some problems and then I stop building and work on a different build. And this is the reason why some of the builds never get finished. I recently started this series called Unfinished Builds. I'm not sure if you guys have seen any of the videos yet, but I wanted to share these builds in their unfinished state because some of them might never get finished, and one of you guys suggested to upload them as shorts, which was a great idea because I think there's not enough content for a whole video, but this way I can at least show you guys the build even if it never gets finished. If you have any requests for specific builds, please feel free to leave them in the comments below and I will take them into consideration. And with that, we're at the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing for more if you're new to the channel. So as I said before, the build is in the gallery, and if you want to download it, my ID is in the description below as always. I also put the lot there if you want to place it on the same one as I did here. Again, thank you so much for watching, and now here's the finished build. See you guys next time. Peace out. Hey, what's up everyone, welcome back to another Sims 4 video on my channel. In today's video, we're building a modern Japanese-inspired family home. So it has been a while since we built here in Mount Komoribi, and today's build is actually a one-pack build, so I only use Snowy Escape and of course base game, so you don't need any additional packs if you want to download this. My ID is in the description below as always. So as you can see, I started building this house on a hill, which I covered later on with lots of plants and some boulders and rocks all around the house to give it a more natural look. And I really tried to blend this house into the surroundings, and a really good way to do this, which I recently learned about, which is basically very straightforward, is to use plants and other objects you see around your builds. But for this build I wanted to use the plants from Snowy Escape anyway. So initially I thought this lot would be too small for this type of house because it's only a 20 by 15 lot, which is quite small, but I think I managed to build a house that feels spacious and actually is quite spacious. And I tried to make up for the lack of garden area here by having several platforms, which are basically patios, because I used some seating accommodations there so your Sims can go outside and use them. I also tried to use some skill building items here, so we have an easel, which you will see later on. We also have an outside fireplace, which looks very nice in my opinion, which you will see towards the end of the video. So this house is intended for a family of 3, so we have 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. I really wanted to have an additional bathroom on the 2nd floor, or at least a half bathroom, but there was no space for it, so I just left it. And I think 1 bathroom should be enough for 3 people. But if you guys really need an additional bathroom, you can always get rid of the office area, which is in this room here where I'm currently placing the windows. You can also use this room as an additional bedroom. It's quite small, but I think it's enough for 4 small kids or teen bedroom. So if you have a family of 4, like the parents and 2 kids, this should work just fine. If you don't need the office area, I just wanted to have it because I feel like this would be the place where I would have my office if this was a real house. I think you could also split the master bedroom if you have like only 1 adult living here, like a single mom or anything like that. You could certainly split it into 2 rooms and have an additional kids room there, or a small bathroom. But for this build I wanted rooms to feel spacious, so I didn't place too many objects. I still wanted them to feel cozy, but spacious and clean, I would say. And the furniture from Snowy Escape is just perfect for that, because they all have the same wood tones and also some white swatches. And this time I used the lighter wood tones because they give the house a modern look. They're very warm and cozy, and that was what I was going for with this build, as I said before, so I really like that. And what's also nice about building with Snowy Escape and base game only, you basically get furniture for every type of room. So we have like kitchen appliances, we have dining table, we have different chairs, there's furniture for the living room area, there's also bathroom furniture, which is pretty nice. And we also get outdoor furniture, for example this picnic table here, which also matches the rest of the furniture very well. It has these furs or fake furs on the benches, which makes this also very nice looking, very cozy. I like to use it for like modern Scandinavian builds as well. So I would say Snowy Escape is one of the best packs you can get. There's a lot included here. Also the world is very nice. So for parts of the house I wanted to use this stilt foundation here, but the pillars looked a bit small, so I decided to use different rocks here, which are from base game actually, and I tried to stack them using the tool mod. I'm gonna link that in the description below for those of you who are new to the channel. I also used some debug columns to cover the rest of the smaller stilts here, because I feel like they look a bit unrealistic because they're so slim, and even though they're basically just bearing the patio area here, in addition to the stones on the left side, I feel like it looks better with the debug columns, which we'll see later on in the video. I also used more rocks on the left hand side, as you can see. I'm not sure why I've never used these flat rocks before, because I've never seen them. They're from base game, or I ignored them. I'm not sure about that, but I was really happy when I saw them for this build, because I think they're exactly the right color and also the right shape. I really like that you can stack them, and this actually inspired me for a future build, which I will upload in the upcoming weeks. By the way, since it's almost December, I wanted to ask if you guys want to see more seasonal builds, like stuff for Christmas, or like winter themed builds, because where I live it's cold. Just let me know in the comments below. I'll probably do a mix of seasonal builds and regular builds like this one here, where I just upload some builds that are basically finished now. I also thought about uploading a video of all the builds sitting in my library, of which many will probably never get finished, so this way I could at least show them to you, and maybe we can decide on which builds actually deserve to be finished. Let me know in the comments below if you would be interested in that. But now back to the build. As you can see, I started landscaping here. So after placing all the rocks and boulders and stuff here, I decided that it was time to add some more rocks and boulders. I also have these mossy stones here, which are a debug object from the Snowyscape expansion. I'm not sure what these are supposed to be, and I also couldn't find it out, so if somebody knows, I'm pretty sure there's a real world equivalent to them. Maybe they're just signs because they have writing on them, I'm not sure. If you know, let me know in the comments below. So as you can see, I use tool mod a lot for this build, and the reason for that is if you have a hill like this one here, the objects will usually float, and with tool you can lower them down, and it's just extremely helpful for builders, but also for less experienced people who want to improve their houses. I also use it for decorating because you can downscale, upscale objects. If you need, for example, a smaller plant in particular, you can make it smaller so it fits on a shelf, but you can also use it to elevate objects. For example, I used it as I said before, for like decorational objects and flowers to put them on shelves, and sometimes it's necessary to have smaller or a bit bigger objects just because the are just not the right size for your build. So it's very helpful. As I said before in the video, I'm going to put it in the description below if you want to check it out yourself. There's also a very nice tutorial on how to use it. It can be a bit overwhelming at first, but it's actually pretty easy to use, and I think it improved my building a lot, so I would really recommend it. So as you guys can see here, I'm placing more of these mossy rocks, signs, whatever they're called. I think the name is just debug, so I can't really put my finger on what they are supposed to be. So usually I use them to add moss to objects, to rocks especially, but you can also use them as a border. For example, here I used them to frame this section here underneath the patio where I wanted to put an easel, because I had this staircase here leading to nowhere and it was kind of obsolete, so I had to add something here, and I think it looks very nice. Moving on to the interior, as you can see, I added the staircase, which was really hard. I almost wanted to stop building, so I almost scrapped this build just because the staircase was so annoying. I cut out the portion where I tried to place it because it was like half an hour long and I couldn't figure out where to put it. So the problem here was that staircases take up a lot of space. I mean, you need a staircase here, you don't want to place a ladder. It would be just too unrealistic. It doesn't make sense. It's nice to have the ladders for micro builds, but not for more sophisticated houses like this one here, which wouldn't have a ladder. It's just a fact. I think I've never seen a house which had just ladders. So you might have a ladder leading to the attic, leading to a small tower area, but I think it's safe to say that most houses don't have ladders. I think I've talked about this in a different video, so here we have the staircase, and I finally found a good place for it. I had to make the house a little bit bigger because I didn't want the staircase to go all the way through the kitchen slash dining room area here. And as I said before, I wanted the house to feel spacious, very open, very modern. So we have an open concept here, of course, where the kitchen is connected to the living room area, which is on the right hand side. You will see that in a minute. And I'm actually pretty happy how the layout turned out, because I built this house basically exterior first, of course, so I wanted to make sure that the exterior looks nice, and then I would worry about the interior, which is always a problem. And sometimes it's really much easier to build the interior first and then worry about the exterior, because you can basically work with what you have. You don't have to worry about things being functional or having enough rooms because they're already there. I mean, let me know in the comments below how you build. I usually jump around a bit, so there's not really a sharp line between exterior and interior, so it's usually for my videos when I build the complete interior first or the complete exterior first, or for stop motions, of course. But I think most people tend to work on the exterior first a bit, then move on to a room, then continue to work on the exterior, then do some landscaping, then you find an object you want to use and go back inside. I think that's the most common way. but it's a bit chaotic for videos, so I apologize if this makes my videos hard to watch, because there's some people out there who are really disciplined and they build one room after another, but it's just not my style, because I always find some objects I want to use later on which I didn't think about or which I've never seen. For example, the rocks I used outside, which are stacked underneath the patio, so you always find new stuff. So this time I also wanted to use a coffee maker, which I also forget about, which you can see here. I usually don't use them for some reason, just because I forget that they're there. And as I'm usually building tiny homes or even micro homes, there's usually not that much space in there, so I can't really use the only counter space I have, which is also the reason why I don't use a lot of decorations on counters in smaller houses, just because I want them to be functional. As you can see here, there's enough space. We have this corner counter here, which is functional, so everything here is functional. I play tested this house for hours because some things didn't work for some reason. I had one chair that didn't work, then another chair that didn't work, so I had to do some readjustments here. Also, the easel didn't work down there, which I wasn't surprised, but I also fixed that so you can actually paint there. And I had to move some objects in the master bedroom just because your Sims couldn't enter the room, so they had to go around, use the outside stairs and then the glass door to enter the bedroom, which was also not very convenient. But now everything should be functional. As always, let me know if you encounter any problems, but I take pride in making sure that my builds are functional for you guys, and just in case somebody wants to use them in their gameplay. So it's really important for me that my builds also work, because I think I also talked about this in a different video. There are some amazing creators out there which build really cool stuff using tool and other mods, and also some custom content which I didn't do here. And the builds look amazing, don't get me wrong. I really like looking at some eye candy builds, but I can tell that they're not usable. And also some people tell me in the comments that my builds are not usable sometimes if they're very small or somehow particularly detailed or cluttered. But trust me, if a build is labeled functional, it is playtested and functional. So I usually mention when my builds are not functional. There are just a few of them. I think the overgrown library, or whatever it was called, just a shorts video, was not functional just because it wasn't the goal. So long story short, this build here is fully functional, as most of my builds. And as I said before, if you want to download it, ID is in the description below. If you download anything from the gallery or just enjoy my videos, please don't forget to leave a like. It's the easiest way to support the channel. But now back to the build. As you guys can see, I used very light wood tones here, and also some larger plants which are from base game. And as you can see, most of the furniture I used is from Snowy Escape, and I really like using the Snowy Escape furniture because the aesthetic is clean and modern, but also a bit traditional. And what's most important here is all the objects have the same swatches, so I can use this very nice light wood tone here for every object in the house basically if I want to, which I basically did. But I also used some objects from base game, of course, which are not included in Snowy Escape. For example, the skill building items. We have the easel, we have a guitar, baseball bat, and of course all the electronics. So just to give you guys an overview here, on the first floor we have the kitchen slash dining area here. The only bathroom in this house is also on the first floor, which is kind of unfortunate because I really wanted to have at least another half bathroom here on the second floor, but there was just no space for it. I mean, you can always get rid of the study area if you really need an additional room for anything, but currently there is just one bathroom in this house, which I think should be enough for 3 people. On the first floor is also the living room area and an additional bedroom. There's only 2 rooms upstairs, which is the master bedroom and the study I was talking about earlier. You could also use it as an additional bedroom. It's not very big. I think it's a 4x2 room, so not that big, but enough space for an additional single bedroom. My houses are usually not that big. Even if I build a family home like this one, it's usually for like 3 or 4 people max. So if you want me to build bigger houses, let me know in the comments below. I also have some rather big houses sitting in my library for some time, which I would like to finish. and they're actually like 99% finished. I think one of them, and the other one is like 90% finished, but I just can't get myself to do all the play testing. It's so much work, but I'm pretty sure they will be released eventually because I put so much work into them, and it would be a shame if they would just sit in my library forever. But at the moment, I don't have that much time, and I wanted to build something I could actually finish. I wanted to upload this on Saturday, but I also couldn't finish it in time until then. And the reason for that is that the playtesting took a lot of time, as I said before. I just couldn't figure out what was causing the problems. It was probably some plant or bush, because the bushes and plants from Snow Escape are notorious for causing problems. I had this problem with the modern Hobbit hole as well, where I had bushes on the roof, of course, because it's an underground house, and one of the bushes caused basically the bathroom to be non-functional. And I couldn't upload the house, of course, this way because everything has to work. As I said before, if I upload my houses, they are usually playtested and fully functional. So this is the master bedroom. As I said before, it's a rather big room compared to the rest of the house. And if you really wanted to have an additional half bathroom or another small room, you could certainly separate this room using the wall tools to create some smaller rooms here. If you place the bed against the wall, there shouldn't be a problem. It should still be usable because your Sims can scoot over, of course. This room has also access to one of the roof patios, as you can see here, which is also the area where we have our outside fireplace, which is currently not there because I added it at the end of the video. And as I said before, considering my usual builds, this is very minimalistic. I wouldn't say plain, but I would say clean looking because I didn't use too much clutter. I would say there's some cluttered shelves in the study here and in the bedroom downstairs, but I think it's not too much. It's just to give it a bit more of a realistic feeling, like somebody's actually living here. But of course, if there are not enough objects here, you have, I would say, enough space. Or maybe not if it's like a bowling alley. That might be too much. I mean, you can place it on the roof somewhere or on one of the patios. That might work, but I'm not sure about that. So here you guys can see the study I was talking about earlier. I'm also placing some skill building or just some decorational objects here. As you can see, we have a telescope. We also have the easel down here, which I was also talking about earlier. And I used some more bushes from Snowy Escape to cover up this area here to make it look a bit more realistic and natural. I also used some of these red leaf trees here just as a little bit of contrast. I really like how they look. I think they're also from Snowy Escape, but I didn't want to use too many of them. So just a little bit of color, not too much, because the house is very gray. And as I said before, I wanted the interior to be warm and cozy, and that's also the reason why I used these light wood elements here. So as you can see, we have a dressing room area kind of here, the little sitting area where your Sims can read. Yeah, as I said before, it's really easy to separate the master bedroom into two rooms. You would basically just have to place a wall in between here, and you would have an additional like bathroom or a bedroom or whatever room you need. So as I said before, I have some rather large builds sitting in my gallery, and I want to release them at some point. And I wanted to ask you guys if you would prefer to see a stop motion for these builds, because I haven't recorded the whole building process for a speed build. Also, a speed build would be like 3 hours if I cut out some of the parts, so it would be way too long. And even a stop motion would be like 30-40 minutes probably. And I thought about just doing a tour video. I'm not sure if you guys want to see just a tour or if there has to be a stop motion or speed build, but I'm not sure how I would do the tour. Probably I would just walk through the house using the free cam and then talk about the individual rooms and the build itself, what the inspiration was, what the general idea was, what I tried to achieve. Just talk about the problems I encountered with the builds and my ideas and thoughts during the building process basically. So I'm not sure if you guys are interested in that or if you just want to see speed builds and stop motions, because after all, this is a building channel and I think doing a tour would be just in line with the concept of the channel. So I wanted to know if you guys would be interested in that, because I always try to create content that you guys actually want to watch. Anyway, long story short, let me know in the comments below if you would be interested in that, or if you want a different concept. So for example, if you say, oh no, I'm fine, do a speed build, for example, then I could do a 2-hour speed build, which I probably won't do because it's an insane amount of work, and I think people don't want to watch 2-hour speed builds. I think the threshold here is like 30 minutes. People watch 30-minute videos, but they don't want to watch longer videos, at least in this genre, I would say. Because it kind of gets boring, especially if there's no commentary. I'm not sure about the commentary anymore because I thought this channel would improve with me doing some commentary, telling you a bit about my thought processes here. But some people also told me they don't like the commentary, so it's a little bit like a double-edged sword because some people mute the commentary, some say it's too slow, some say it's just right. Some people don't even watch the video, they just listen while playing The Sims themselves. And I'm aware I can't make it right for everybody, but I just try to do my best here. Anyway, back to longer build videos. I'm probably gonna do stop motions just because I think they're the most convenient. They're also a lot of work, but I think it makes sense to like do a stop motion when a speed build would be like 2 hours long. I'm also aware that not everybody likes stop motions. I'm also aware that not everybody likes speed builds, but I think these are the two main types of build videos. When I built the Sylvan Glade cottage, I tried to kind of edit the highlights, which was also quite interesting, and I'm not sure if people liked it, but it was a different type of video. But I also learned from it, so it was an interesting experience. But I think most people prefer speed builds. I think that's quite safe to say. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what your favorite type of video is. If this video was too like slow or too fast, I think it could be a bit faster, but it's just inconvenient to watch if it's too fast. But some people want really fast speed builds, and I think that's not really a problem because we're here on YouTube and you can always adjust the speed. Anyway, back to the build. As you can see, we have a very nice room divider here for the master bedroom, and I really want to use this object here, but it caused a lot of problems because you couldn't enter the room, and I eventually fixed it by rotating it a bit so the Sims wouldn't have to enter the room from outside. So this is the second bedroom for like a kid or a teenager, and this room is a bit more cluttered, as you can see here, with this very nice shelf, which is also from Snowy Escape. I think I used multiple of these. There are not as many slots on this shelf as I would like, but it's not really a problem because if you have like the tool mod or the red shelf mod, which I'm also going to link in the description below if you want to check it out. I didn't use it for this build. You can pretty easily clutter shelves like this one here. So my favorite part about this build is probably this outside fireplace here, which I think is also from Snowy Escape. I used almost all furniture from the pack, and it's just because the furniture looks modern and clean, but also traditional in some way. It's just perfect. I think, as I said before, one of the best packs for builders, but also for gameplay. Anyway, we're now at the end of the video. I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a like, consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. Also leave a comment if you want to. I always appreciate feedback, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As I said before, the build is fully functional and play tested. You can download this from the gallery. My ID is in the description below. If you're interested in more builds that fit Mount Komorebi, there's a playlist on my channel. I'm also going to link it at the end of the video. Again, thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace out. Hey, what's up everyone, welcome back to another Sims 4 video on my channel. Today I have a stop motion for you, which I haven't done in a while. Today we're building an abandoned beach house, and I've actually finished this almost a year ago but didn't upload it for some reason. But it's here now and I hope you guys like it. I only used Island Living and of course Base Game to build this because I like to limit myself to 1 or 2 packs sometimes, or even Base Game because it's fun. Also more people can download it. I actually built this house for you guys to renovate, but you can also use it as an abandoned community lot or whatever you like. If enough people renovate this house, I'm gonna do a video on it. And by enough people, I mean like 1 or 2 people, because that's what I expect. If you want to download this house, my ID is in the description as always. And if you're interested in being in the tour video, make sure to leave a comment on this video, including your ID, so I can find you built on the gallery. I'm not sure when I'm gonna do the video, but the deadline for uploading your builds is the end of January, so you have about a month starting now. Let me know in the comments below if you like the idea of touring builds, because I have some bigger builds coming up next and I kind of want to tour them instead of doing speed builds or stop motions because the videos would be very long. So now for the rules of this build renovation challenge, whatever you want to call it. You can use as much money as you want. The house costs around 20,000 simoleons. The finished house has to have enough space for at least 2 sims. You can get rid of anything you don't like except the walls. But you can change walls to other types of walls, for example these half walls here to normal walls and the other way around. You can of course add as many walls as you want. You can also make the house bigger. You're allowed to change the roof but not the windows or doors. And finally you can use all the packs that you have. I don't have all of them, but I'm gonna try to acquire them if you use anything that I don't have. Of course all these rules are only if you want to participate in the challenge for the next video. Maybe we should also decide on a hashtag for the gallery, so let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions for hashtags for upcoming challenges as well. So as you can see, this house is rather small. I think it also qualifies as a tier 3 tiny home, so it's a bit below 100 tiles. There aren't really many rooms here. We have this larger area here, which is the kitchen, but also the living room with a small sunroom in the back and also a small bathroom. There's only one room upstairs, which also has a small balcony. As you can see, there are also some holes in the floor, and I really like how the tree and the other plants are just growing through the holes in the floor. So now that we're almost at the end of this video, I wanted to say thank you for watching and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you did with the house, and I hope you have fun renovating it. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. Thank you for watching. See you guys next time. Peace out. Hitting your wall, short notice, I just gotta let you know. You led me straight to the fall. I'm broken, I'm still trying skin and bones. You left me, you're all alone. I hate you, then you show up on my phone. I might need a miracle, I'm at a loss for words. What's the point of even trying? You always catch me by surprise. I didn't wanna see the signs. Hey, what's up everyone, welcome back to another Sims 4 video on my channel. So today I have finally finished my Copperdale brick house, which I want to show you today. This video is way longer than what I usually upload, just because I kind of underestimated how long I actually worked on this house. So it took me like 5 to 6 hours in total, and I don't want my videos to be too fast because I think it's just not pleasant to watch. I also asked you guys if you would actually prefer 2 parts, one for the exterior, one for the interior, but the results were quite clear and most of you said they would prefer a longer video, so I decided to do the longer video. Anyway, let me tell you a bit more about this house here in particular. So it's a very small house, as you can see, in Copperdale. It doesn't qualify as a small home, so tiny living is not really useful here. And I also didn't use this expansion pack just because I wanted to do a 1-pack build, and this build actually only uses base game and the new high school expansion, or rather new high school expansion, because this pack has been out for a while now and I haven't really used it to build anything that only uses this 1 pack here. I still plan on building the high school for Mount Komoribi, but I'm not sure yet which packs I'm gonna use to build it, maybe just all that I have. Anyway, back to the build. As you can see here, this is a brick house, just because I wanted to use this very nice red brick here in combination with white and green elements, which we'll see later on. So as I said before, this house is rather small, so we only have one bedroom in here and there's only enough space for 2 Sims. I mean, you can always extend the house to one side or to the back, maybe also put the bathroom somewhere else, so you could possibly add another small bedroom in here. So I initially planned that this house should be for a family of 3 Sims, but as I said before, there wasn't really space for an additional bedroom, and I kind of liked the shape at that point, so I didn't want to switch around too much. And I had the same problem as always, so if you have watched other videos I did in the past, you know that I usually build the exterior first and then I try to figure out the floor plan, which doesn't always work because the house looks good from the outside, but it doesn't really work from the inside. And I also had to switch around a lot of doors and windows here, just because they were in places where they didn't make a lot of sense. And as you probably know, my builds are usually not only functional, but I also try to make them kind of realistic looking, not always, but most of the time. So this house is also functional and play tested, so if you want to download it and use it in your game, you can, of course. I'm gonna put my gallery ID description below as always. Also feel free to check out my other builds if you're interested in that. I'm also going to put the original lot in the description below, so you can place it here as well if you want to. I also really like this lot just because of the location. It's like in the middle of a forest and you have this small river in the back flowing to the ocean. So in general, as I said before in my fall A-frame build, I really like Copperdale. I think it's one of the best worlds, maybe my favorite now. And I still feel like this is what the werewolf expansion should have been, because I think Moonwood Mill is just boring and generic looking. I don't really like it. I'm sorry if someone watching this actually likes the place, which is also alright of course, but it's not my cup of tea. But I really like the objects from werewolves. I use them a lot when using several packs, because I haven't really done a 1-pack build using only werewolves except for my old male build. I'm gonna link it somewhere if you want to watch that. So one thing I noticed when building this was that base game has a lot of very nice pillars here, and I think I used 3 or 4 different pillars here. And the only thing that bothers me is that we have no simple rectangular pillar like the one from Get Together, which is very useful just because it has very nice colors and it's very basic, so it fits almost every build. It's also quite slim, so you can use it for smaller builds like this house as well. So as I said before, this house doesn't qualify for any of the tiny home tiers, not even the biggest one, which is I think 100 tiles, just because it has this very large balcony here and also this patio area underneath it, so they take up a lot of tiles here. But the goal wasn't really to build a tiny home here, just because I didn't even use the pack, and therefore I didn't bother making the house smaller, just because I was focusing on using the high school pack. And after finishing this build, I have to say that the high school pack is actually one of the best packs in my opinion. It has a lot of unique objects, also for landscaping, some very useful objects which you will see later on. And one object that I liked in particular is this metal tiling here, which I think is very unique. There are not many objects like this one, and I really like that you can place them separately. It has also a lot of nice colors, and I think they say it's metal, but it kind of looks like concrete or stone to me, and I decided to use the very basic white one just because it would go very well with the red here and the green, of course. I also wanted to add some greenery to the walls just because this house is basically in the middle of nowhere, and I felt like it should have a lot of plants around it, and I also added those ivy climbing trellises to the walls and also some additional debug ivy, which was also included in the high school pack. So because I like using ivy or other climbing plants a lot, it's always hard for me to only use base game because there aren't any climbing plants included, and I really like using plants on walls like here. So as you can see here, I was just adding additional details here. I'm not even sure what these objects here are called. Oh no, wait, it's corbel. They're corbels, and I like to use them a lot just because they add a bit more of additional detail and realism to your builds. So I really didn't like how the roof looked on the backside, so I decided to extend the house a bit because it made it easier to kind of get rid of this strange looking roof here. I spent a lot of time working on the roof here because roofing is kind of difficult, especially when you have different roofs coming together. And I switched around a lot of the roofs here just to go back to the way it was basically. Some people ask me to do a roofing tutorial, but I'm not sure if I'm the right guy for that job because I know a few tricks, but it's different for every house, so it's mostly trial and error for me, just like here. I mean, I could do a basic tutorial for roofing. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments below. But it always depends on what you're trying to build and also how big the house is or whatever you're building, just because if the house gets bigger, there are usually more roofs that come together and it gets more difficult to arrange them. And here it's a rather small house, but it also has a roof that's quite complicated in my opinion, just because we have the balconies, we have those different areas here, and also this diagonal area here in the back, which wasn't too hard to roof. I simply put a diagonal roof on top of it. So as you can see here, I also used a different type of brick. This gray one here, which I think is the same one as the red one, just a different color here, or maybe it isn't. There are several bricks that look kind of similar in base game. Anyway, both of these bricks are from base game, just in case you're wondering, and I really like how they look together. I also decided to go for a black brick foundation and black stairs, as you can see here, because I was looking for something to fit the brick flooring on the patio and the balcony area here, and of course the black roof. So as you can see here, I was trying to figure out how the roof should look, and I had this quite complicated roof construction here, but I ended up reversing most of it just because I liked it more the way it looked before. And so I cut out a rather long portion where I did the roofing just because it wasn't very interesting, and at this point the exterior was basically finished and I started doing the landscaping, as you can see here. And I went for a white fence, as you can see, with a lot of trees around, and here was just dragging out some debug objects that I wanted to use. I really like those string lights here, which also came with the high school expansion. I think they're debug object and not normal objects, so you have to use cheats to access them, or use better build by, which I used later on in this video. It's very helpful and I really recommend using it for building. If you're building a lot, it's very helpful once you get used to it. I'm gonna link the creator's website in the description below as well, so if you're interested in checking that one out, make sure to check the description below. I also wanted to add a small body of water on the lot itself, so I decided to use the pond tool, as you can see here. And initially I wanted a bigger pond area with a bridge overarching the whole area here, but it was all a bit too much and it didn't look that good, so I eventually removed it, and I also cut out that portion because it was very long and also not very interesting. So as you can see, I decided to go for like dirty pond water here with a lot of leaves and algae and moss in there, just because I think it fits fall a bit better, and I initially planned on building a fall themed house again, but then I decided that I didn't want to use any additional packs, as I said before, and so I just used the high school pack to build this, and didn't use any decorations from Seasons, which would have been kind of necessary to turn this into a fall themed house, because we have all the pumpkins and all the weather themed stuff in that pack. And this way you can also use this house during all the other seasons without having to redecorate that much. But don't worry, if you're especially interested in seasonal builds like for winter or fall or also spring, I'm still gonna do seasonal stuff as well, just because it's fun to have some variation in there and also build for the current season. And I actually started working on some winter themed builds, which I'm gonna start uploading towards the end of November. So stay tuned for that as well. So this might be a good point to uh, ask you guys to subscribe to the channel if you watched this video until here. You're probably interested in my content, so I would very much appreciate it if you could also leave a like and consider subscribing if you plan on coming back to the channel, because currently over 90% are not subscribed and it's the easiest way to support the channel. So back to the build now. As you can see, I'm adding some additional ivy here, which is a debug object from the high school expansion, and also some more trees and shrubs. And initially I wasn't too sure how I wanted the garden area to look like. I planned on having a more tutored lawn here and less of a wild garden, but eventually I added more shrubs and weeds and flowers, which is more my style, so I like the house more this way. But if you're interested in downloading this, you can always remove the vegetation or parts of the house that you don't like. So as you can see here, I added more of those tiles to the wall here just to add some additional detail, and I really like how they looked here. I also added some more of them to the front, as you can see here, and I see myself using those tiles a lot more in the future, just because they appear to be very useful. They have nice swatches as well, and it's just a small detail that adds a bit more of realism to your builds. So at this point I wanted to start working on the interior. As you can see, I was just dragging out random furniture that I thought might fit the interior, and at this point I wasn't too sure about the style I wanted the interior to be, if it should be a bit more modern or old-fashioned. And initially I wanted the interior to be a bit darker with more black and stuff like that, but I felt like it didn't really work with the exterior, because the rest of the house was rather bright with a lot of red, green and white, of course. So I decided to go for a lot of white inside as well, but with some darker wood tones, for example the stairs and also the flooring, which we'll see in a minute. So as you can see here, I had to rearrange some of the windows and also doors later on, as I said before, just because I don't really bother having a floor plan before I start furnishing, because I usually work on the exterior and then I try to figure out where to fit which room. And I think this house turned out quite alright. I wish I had an additional bedroom here, but it wasn't really possible to squeeze one in, and therefore I decided that this house is just for two Sims, and if somebody needed an additional bedroom, they could just maybe move the bathroom somewhere else, or the staircase, or maybe simply add another room or get rid of the patio or balcony area. So I also added some lights at this point. I like using the small ceiling lights just because they are not in the way that much when you're building or playing, and they are quite bright as well. I wanted the interior to be cozy and rather bright, as I said before, because I think a black wall or black flooring wouldn't really fit the house, but I wanted to have some darker elements as well, so I decided to go for this brown wooden flooring here and also wooden stairs, but I wanted to keep the walls rather bright, so I used this white wooden paneling here, which also looks very nice, but I eventually removed parts of it for a different wallpaper. So just out of curiosity, I wanted to ask you guys if you would have preferred a darker house or a darker interior at least, so let me know in the comments below. So in general, I'm pretty happy how the house turned out, and I think it also fits the Copperdale aesthetic I was going for. Or maybe you think it doesn't fit here at all. Let me know in the comments. So one problem that I encountered was that I didn't really have space for a dining area, and I wanted the dining area to be a bit more separate, and the house is very small, so I went for a more open concept here with this archway instead of a door because the room is so small. I also like how the kitchen turned out. I think it's my favorite part of the house. Let me know in the comments which room you liked best. So the kitchen was basically done, and I have dragged out some objects I wanted to use later on to decorate the kitchen, and I also changed some of these swatches to fit the overall color scheme of the kitchen before I moved upstairs to work on the bed and bathroom here. And as I said before, I didn't really have a floor plan, or I actually had no floor plan as a matter of fact, and so I tried to figure out which room should be, and it wasn't that hard because the small room didn't have enough space for a double bed, so I decided that the large room would be the bedroom and the smaller room in the back would be the bathroom. And then we had this area here, which isn't really a separate room because the staircase leads directly into it, and so I decided to go for a general sitting area. I also considered separating the large room to have an additional bedroom, but as you can see here, there wasn't really any space to place a second door, and it felt kind of awkward to have a small hallway between the two bedrooms, so I just kept one large room and added some kind of office area, which we'll see later on. I also thought about using some of the outside colors, for example the red brick or the gray brick inside, but I didn't like how it looked, and instead I added those white bricks here, which are also from the high school pack. And then I tried to figure out which furniture I wanted to use because the high school expansion has some nice objects, for example the different types of sofas, and the initial plan here was to simply pick a sofa and then select the rest of the furniture based on the specific style of the sofa, which didn't work out too well because I wasn't sure which sofa to use, but I knew I wanted to use those ceiling lights. I think they're called Canopy of Light, and they're also from the high school expansion, so I've never used them before, and I think they look pretty nice. I also wanted to add a fireplace, so I picked one from base game because I think there are none included in the high school expansion, and this one here had a white swatch which I think fits the overall color scheme of the house very well. So as you can see, the living room area is also very narrow, and I couldn't find a place for TV just because I didn't want to put it above the fireplace, which was basically the only place where it would fit. I also ended up removing the door in the back because I've put the sofa in front of it, and I added some additional windows instead. I then started working on the bedroom. As you can see here, I had to remove the balcony door just because I wanted the bed to be on this side here, because we had this nice window in the front and the bed wouldn't fit in any other way. And then I added those nightstands here, which are also from the high school pack. I think the bedroom was the hardest room to furnish just because it had such an awkward shape. It was kind of long and narrow, and as I said before, I wanted to separate it to have two rooms here, but it didn't look that good, so I just kept it the way it was. And now that the house is finished, I have to say I'm pretty satisfied with how it looks. So here was adding a desk area, some kind of office workspace, and as this area was pretty empty anyway, I decided that it would be a good idea to have it here. But I also considered having the office in the adjacent room, but it's basically a hallway, and so I think it's not a good place for an office, as people would walk by and maybe disturb you while working on important stuff. So I just kept it here, and I have to say I really like this chair here, which is one of the new office chairs, I think, also from the high school expansion. Of course, this is the only expansion that I used. I'm not sure why I'm always mentioning that. But anyway, I also used some of the new curtains, as you can see here, which are not base game. I also wanted to have a lot of plants, just because I like having a lot of plants around in the house. And these are mostly from base game. I think all of them are from base game because there were not that many great plants included, or at least not that many potted plants you can actually use indoors. So this chair here was so frustrating to use, because I eventually used a different sofa, and I thought the chair would fit the sofa because they have a rather similar style, but it wasn't quite the same. You will see that later on. Also, this footstool here, which is also not base game, was so annoying to use just because it has so much nice swatches, but they don't really fit the chair. But I kept it anyway. So here's the new sofa I was talking about, and to me it looks like they belong together, the chair and the sofa, but they don't have matching swatches for some reason, and so I had to go for those that look the best together. I also think there are not enough paintings and posters in base game, and in general, just because I have to use the same ones over and over again. And I'm aware that you can download kind of custom paintings from the gallery, which are not actually custom content, but I think they usually don't have frames, and it's kind of hard to use them without frames because they look kind of unfinished. And so I just used those wall decorations that are included in base game and the high school expansion, for example, those diploma here. So at this point, almost all the necessities for actually living in this house were there, except for the bathroom, and I started to add some smaller details. As you can see, pictures to the walls, some plants, those aprons here, which I think are in almost all of my builds, just because they're such a nice detail, and they have also a lot of different swatches. So at this point I was kind of frustrated that I couldn't finish the interior, just because I felt like the bedroom didn't look that great, and I also wasn't really happy with the dining area and the living room. And so I decided to do a little bit more landscaping. And this is the pond I was talking about earlier. And here I'm using different plants just to blend in the margins a bit better, because I think the water tool is still not great. Because when you build a pond or a small lake or a river, which is not really possible anyway, it doesn't look very natural in my opinion. And so I like using those different shrubs and plants and weeds to kind of cover the areas where the water meets the land. And this is also one of the reasons why my builds usually take me that long, just because I want to blend in everything. I do a lot of landscaping and also terrain painting, which I think is worth it, just because at least in my opinion it looks a bit better. And some of the packs have nicer objects, especially debug objects and plants that you can use to do landscaping. And the high school pack has a very nice grass. I always talk about grass. For those who have watched more of my videos, you know I kind of tend to talk a lot about grass. I also added a boat because I think it makes sense to have a boat. There is the ocean nearby and also the small stream in the back. Maybe it's not suitable for using it on the stream, but for the ocean. So as I said before, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to put on the left hand side in front of the house, and I initially planned on having a larger pond with a small bridge, as I said before, but then I decided that I didn't want to have the bridge and instead go for some kind of sitting area here, surrounded by flowers and other plants. So as you can see, I used those shrubs and flowers and different types of plants just to create some kind of frame for the sitting area here. and then added a table and some chairs. So with builds that are a bit more overgrown like this one here, it's always hard to get a nice transition between your lot and the surrounding world. But I tried my best to make this look natural, and I also added some outdoor lights, as you can see here, which look pretty nice, especially at night with the fireflies that are placed around the house. So as I was trying to kind of shorten this video, because as I said at the beginning it's very long, which you probably noticed yourself, I accidentally cut out this portion here where I was furnishing the living room, and I had to go back to my recordings to find this part here because it was kind of missing in between, and it was really annoying because I had like 35 different recordings here which I had to go through all over again. I don't think it would have been a big deal if I just left it out, but I was kind of confused myself because I thought, well, when did I place this object here, and when did I put the camera on top of the fireplace? So there's no TV in this house, just because I don't think it's necessary to have a TV in every house. And there also wasn't that much space to place one. I didn't want to put it on the wall here just because it was so close to the sofa and wouldn't really fit a narrow room like the living room here. I also think it would have been too high up if I put it onto the wall above the fireplace. So no TV in this house. So as I said before, I had to move around a lot of the windows and doors, and I also had to move this one here to the living room because I put the dining table in this room and the door didn't fit there. It was just kind of in the way. So I decided to replace it with large windows, as you can see here. And then I added some lights in here as well because it was quite dark. And this ceiling light here is also from the high school expansion, and I think it's also one of the nicer objects that are included. And now finally moving on to the bathroom, I felt like this house should have a bathtub instead of a shower. I initially wanted to fit in a shower as well because there was this strange nook here to the right, but I eventually moved the balcony door to this side here, which isn't really convenient to have it in the bathroom. But it was the only place where the balcony would still be usable, so I kept it, and I also liked how it looked because it has all those small, tiny glass panels. And I also tried using objects that had the same aesthetic as the kitchen appliances with these copper bronze tones here, and it was really difficult finding a nice wallpaper here. I was going for tiles, and I wanted to use stuff from the high school expansion. So I also planned on keeping the wooden flooring in here, but having wooden flooring inside the bathroom doesn't seem like a good idea. I think there's only one material that would be worse, and it's of course carpet, which is just disgusting in my opinion. I'm sorry if anyone here has carpet in their bathroom, but I think it's like the worst material you could have in a room that's constantly wet. Just imagine getting out of the shower like... Concerning wooden flooring in a bathroom, my judgment might have been a bit hasty because thinking about it, I've seen people who have actually wooden flooring in the bathroom, which is sealed with car paint, I think. There was this one guy who even had a shower with wooden flooring, which was pretty cool. So at this point I was just adding additional clutter to the build, as you can see here, because all the main necessities were already in there. We have a kitchen that works, we have a full bathroom upstairs, we have a bedroom, and everything else is basically optional and just for looks. And I have to say, even though the high school expansion has a lot of very nice clutter objects, I mainly use stuff from base game to decorate at least. However, most of the curtains are from high school, and also a lot of the wall art. So here I was just adding a small side table to the reading nook here because this area wasn't really good for anything, so I thought why not just place a reading chair here and also add a little bit of light here. The high school expansion also included a carpet that I've never used before, and it has this one very nice white swatch where it almost looks like fur or a sheepskin or something similar, which I'm going to use more in the future as well. So I was really happy with the master bedroom, which is also the only bedroom here, so I decided to go for some additional details. For example, the lights, which I would have put there anyway. But I also felt like the room was a bit empty in the middle section, so I wanted to place some more objects and furniture there. And as this is a one pack build, I tried to use as many objects from high school as I could here. So as I said earlier in the video, I wasn't sure if I wanted this build to be more old-fashioned or modern, and I think I found the middle ground, and I'm pretty happy how this room eventually turned out, because I feel like the rustic elements added some extra coziness to the room. So I had some kind of cloth rack here initially, but it was kind of in the way, and so I decided to go for this dresser here, which is a bit smaller, and I placed various different objects on top of it, mostly plants and books, but also different clutter objects, which you will see later on, and this caused me some problems here, which you will see in a minute. I also had a look at the objects from high school before, but I kind of missed this folding basket here, which is a very nice object. Really like the swatches and just a little bit of realism it adds to your builds. And again, as you can see here, I used the red shelf to place everything at the right height so it wouldn't float on top of the dresser here. I also felt like the wall in between the windows was a bit empty and I didn't really like the curtains here. So I think I ended up removing the curtains later on and placed some wall-mounted displays here and also added a coat rack just because there wasn't really any storage space for clothing except for the dresser, which is pretty small, so I thought they might want to have some additional space to hang their clothes here, and I also really like how it looks. I then added some more wall art like this diploma here and also those random keys here, which I don't really use very often. So I wasn't too sure what I wanted to put on the display here, so I started with a camera just because they had one downstairs as well, and so I thought these people could be into photography, and I thought it looked really cool that they had several cameras on display here. However, those cameras are from different packs, and when I saved the house I saw that I used objects from different packs that I couldn't figure out at first where they were or which objects I actually used from a different pack. But this happens a lot when building one pack builds, because once you use the eyedropper it resets your selected packs and it's really annoying. I don't know if there's a mod to fix that, but I think it would be really helpful. And I had this issue with different builds where I didn't pay much attention and then I used objects from packs I didn't want to use, and it's really annoying, especially with larger builds. I had this issue with the mansion I haven't uploaded yet because it's not play tested, and I had to go through all the rooms just because I couldn't figure out which object I put in there from a different pack, and it was also one pack build, so I usually save the house several times throughout the building process just to be sure that there are no objects included from packs that I don't want to use, just because this way I can kind of narrow it down to the last few objects that I placed, which makes it easier to get rid of objects from packs that you don't want to use. And I think I had to delete 2 of the cameras just because they were from, I think, Get Famous or something like that. So here I tried to figure out what to do with this kind of large hallway area here, which is not really a hallway, but it's also not a real room. And so I decided to just create a cozy sitting area here with lots of plants and also lots of framed pictures. And I initially planned on having the bathroom here, so there could be another bedroom to the right. I would have made the room a bit bigger on the right hand side so I could fit a bed in there, but it didn't look very good and it was also kind of awkwardly shaped, so I decided to leave the bathroom there. Then I tried to turn this room here into a bedroom, but there wasn't really any space, and I also didn't want to wall off the area here because the bathroom would only be accessible from that one room, and the master bedroom wouldn't have access to the bathroom, which would be kind of strange in my opinion, so I decided to just leave the room like it was before and simply add a lot of plants and frame pictures, as I said before. And I have to say, there are not that many great pre-arranged sets of pictures here you can put on the wall. There's this one here from base game, but that's about it. And for the high school expansion, we have the selection of diploma and stuff like that, but I think that's about it. So this was basically the last room that I furnished. I did some minor adjustments for playability purposes, just to make sure everything works. If you want to download this and use it in your game, my gallery ID is in the description below as always. So if you're gonna download this, make sure to check out my other stuff as well. Maybe you find something else you like. I have a few more builds that use limited packs, like 1-pack or 2-pack builds, but also some base game builds if you're interested in that. So that's it for today. We have now pictures of the finished build, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a like to let me know, and also consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Peace out. Hey, what's up everyone, welcome back to another Sims 4 video on my channel. So today I have a smaller build for you guys, which was also a bit of a challenge because I built this on this 8x8 platform, which you can see here, which was fun, but it was also kind of difficult at certain points. For example, when I wanted to build the bathroom and there was just not enough space here, but I'm gonna talk about that later when we move on to the interior. So this house is inspired by typical Swedish vacation homes or Scandinavian vacation homes in general, and I decided to make it red just because this is the color that most people associate with Sweden and Swedish architecture, and therefore I decided to use this very nice bright red wooden siding here, which is from base game, and I found myself using this specific siding here a lot, especially for farmhouses or other rustic builds, just because it fits this specific aesthetic very well. As I said before, I wanted to make this build also a bit of a challenge for myself, and not only did I build it on this very small 8x8 platform here, I also tried to avoid using more than one pack. And because this is basically a cottage, I thought which pack would fit the overall aesthetic better than cottage living, and so I decided to use cottage living for this cottage here, which was actually the right choice in my opinion. And this is also what I like to do before I start building stuff. I try to consider which objects or wallpapers or flooring or other decorational objects I'm gonna need and which colors are available in the specific packs, and then I try to build with the packs that I picked beforehand. Personally, I really like doing 1-pack builds or also base game builds, as you probably know if you've seen other videos that I've uploaded to YouTube, just because it's sometimes a bit easier to build with just 1 pack, because At this point I have almost all packs that are currently available, and it's a bit overwhelming how many objects there are, and I still find myself discovering new objects, quote-unquote new objects, that I've never seen before or just ignored just because they were somewhat hidden somewhere in categories I don't usually use for my builds. And it's also quite dangerous to use the same objects over and over, and I try to avoid that, even though as you might know if you've seen other videos, of course, there are certain staples that I always use, like the 2 books from the clutter objects, or the books you could place on shelves. So what I'm trying to say here is that using just one pack can be easier for building and for the building process because you don't have that many objects to choose from. But it can also be a bit more difficult, of course, because here I could have used the shower from university because it's just the best shower in the game, at least for building smaller constricted bathrooms, just because it's basically just wall mounted and you can fit it anywhere. And it was really tempting to just add this one additional pack here, but I felt like it would be cheating, and so I avoided it completely and found a different solution, which we'll see in a bit. By the way, I still have a bit of a cold at this point, so if I'm breathing too hard into your ears, I'm very sorry about that. So because of that, I also kind of postponed my upcoming video, which is the country mansion, which will be the next long video that I upload. And this is because I thought this video here would be much shorter and easier to do commentary on while I'm kind of feeling not that well. However, the video got a bit longer than I expected, and so here we are. And again, I hope it's not too bad for you guys to listen to. Anyway, back to the build. This got a lot more colorful than I thought it would be, just because I wanted to combine the red with, of course, some white, which is a nice contrast color here, especially for the columns, which serve as some kind of framing here, as I most of the time do with my builds. But I also wanted to add some colors that are a bit more bold, and so I decided to go for some blue, of course, which you can see here with the front door, and also some of the interior later on. Also tried to use as much blue as possible. For example, for the bicycle you can see in the front here, which is also a very nice object from cottage living. I like using it a lot. I wish there would be a base game bike of some kind, so we could use that one for decorating and of course for gameplay as well. But unfortunately, I think it's just included in the Snowy Escape expansion, so you only get it there. And this one here, which is a bit rusty looking, which was basically perfect for this build, so I prefer this one here from Cottage Living. I think the bike is among my top 5 objects that are currently in the game, just because it adds a lot of character to every build basically where you use it. And I don't know if you guys have some kind of favorite objects that you find yourself using a lot while building, but if you have one, let me know in the comments below. I'm always interested in what you have to say. So at this point I was trying to add some additional detail to the house by kind of modifying the roof with this. I'm not even sure what I'm gonna call this. It's not really a skylight or anything, but I put an additional window up there. And I did this because the house just looked kind of odd. It was so narrow, and I couldn't add a second story to it just because it looked awful. It's not like I didn't try, but it just looked so bad. So no second story here. But it was kind of strange because I built a different cottage, which was, I think I just called it the off the grid cottage, which is a bit of a bland name, to be honest. But this one had a second story, and I think it was about the same size as this one, but it looked much better. I don't know why. However, for this one, no second story. I tried, but it looked so bad. But hey, I'm actually kind of glad that it didn't work out because I really like the new aesthetic here. I made the roof a bit higher later on, but I actually really like the window up there. So those who know me are probably aware that I start furnishing when I'm almost done with the exterior, and this was a huge problem here just because I put the windows on these spots where they basically look very good from the outside, but they're very problematic for furnishing this house. I had to cut out so much of this video just because I couldn't figure out where to put anything, because the windows and the door were on 3 walls and this is just a 4x4 room, so it was so restricting, and I struggled for a while to figure out where to put the bathroom, and eventually I ended up putting the toilet and the bathtub outside just because there was no space whatsoever inside. And I initially planned on using this small shed here as a bathroom, but then I really liked the aesthetic of the shed with the open door, and so I decided to put the bathroom outside, which also kind of makes sense because this is just some kind of vacation home you would find in the countryside. Maybe it doesn't even have power or running water, and I just thought it would be fitting, but it wasn't the initial plan, as I said before. However, I really like the bathtub outside next to the well, and this had also another advantage, which was basically that I could furnish this room here much easier just because I didn't have to consider a bathroom here. And as I said before, I almost used the shower from a university just because it's so compact, you could fit it almost anywhere. And I didn't place an additional sink outside just because I think one sink inside is enough to wash your hands. I also don't think that this would be very realistic to have another sink outside, but I'm pretty sure that this house could exist in this configuration. Let me know in the comments below if you think I'm wrong. So at this point, the color scheme inside at least was all over the place. As I said before, this house was supposed to be a bit more colorful, but I was adding so many different colors to it. There was yellow, blue, red, white, which basically works with every other color, but it was just a bit too much. And then I started using different wood tones. As you can see here, the bed and the shelf were very dark, but the kitchen was completely in white and yellow and with a green fridge, and it was just too much, so I ended up removing and recoloring, so to speak, certain objects in here to make it a bit less loud, so to speak, and give it a more quiet, cozy appeal. I'm pretty happy how it turned out, but let me know in the comments below if you have a different opinion. I always appreciate feedback, and as I said before, I always like to hear your thoughts on different matters. So at this point, the build was basically almost finished. I was just shifting around some of the objects that I've prepared before, and I was just trying to figure out where they made the most sense and where they would look the best. So as you can see here, for example, those aprons, I couldn't really find a place where to put them. I still think they shouldn't be next to the stove, but there was not really any wall space anywhere else to put them, so I just kept them there. So I have to say that I really like this fridge here, and what I also like to do is use the space on the fridge to place some decorations, like the camera here and those, I'm not sure what they are, jars maybe, and this oil lamp here, just because it always looks so empty up there. You can always use some kind of cabinet to frame the fridge, but for me, I think this only works for more modern kitchens, or if you have some cabinets, which I didn't put here, Also, the table you can see inside gave me a headache just because I wanted to use 2 chairs, and when I tried to fit the bathroom inside, it was an absolute nightmare because, as I said before, the windows were always in the way. I had to place the bed somewhere, and the beds they have an awkward length. They are like 2.5 tiles long, and so they don't really fit anywhere. And I've seen compact builds where people have just shoved them into the wall to get rid of like a third of the bed, and this works, so you can still use the bed and you just have to cover up the part of the bed that is poking through the wall. However, it still looks odd, which is the reason why I would try to avoid this if I not absolutely have to save some space. But here it worked out, and it also kind of makes sense that the stove is there in front of the bed, because this could also serve as some kind of heat source to keep the place warm, which I imagine would be very nice and cozy to have it at your feet while sleeping. I was just glad that the bathroom was now outside, because the room looks so much nicer without the bathroom in there. So at this point the build was basically finished. I did some minor adjustments later on to make sure that this is usable. So this build is also play tested, so in case you want to download it, I'm gonna put my gallery ID in the description below as always. I'm also gonna put the lot in the description I built this on in case you want to play there. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing if you are not already subscribed to the channel. See you guys next time. Peace out. Hey, what's up everyone, welcome back to another Sims 4 video on my channel. So today we're building a rather big house here in the Montgomery region again. Today we have a stop motion. The reason for that is that the video was like 50 minutes long, which was way too long in my opinion for a speed build, and I think I couldn't do that long of a commentary, so we have a stop motion here, but I still wanted to do commentary. By the way, let me know in the comments below if you prefer just music for stop motions or if commentary is fine, because I think most people that do only stop motions don't do commentary at all, and I think it's more a thing for speed builds. However, I wanted to tell you guys a bit more about this build here, and once we move on to the interior, it's gonna be a bit like a house tour. I'm just gonna talk about the rooms and what they're supposed to be, so you guys can just lean back and relax here. And at the end of the video, of course, we have some pictures of the finished build, so you can check that out if you want to. Of course, all the chapters are in the description below if you're interested in a specific part of this build. So this is a one-pack build for Mount Komorebi. That's also the reason why I tried to adopt the specific style of Mount Komorebi, which is of course Japanese inspired, as you probably know. And this is a one-pack build, so I only used base game and Snowy Escape to build this, so you don't need any further expansions if you want to download this. So this is quite a big house for the lot size here, because this is only a 30 by 20 lot, which is a community lot when you start a fresh game called the Hazakura launch. But I'm gonna put the lot details in the description below if you're interested in placing this at the exact same spot as I did here. So this build took me a while to finish, not only because it's a rather big house, but also because I struggled with the particular style I was going for, because I wanted this to be a bit more traditional but with a modern twist. which wasn't that easy to accomplish. Also with the pack limitations. So the biggest problem was probably the layout, because I didn't consider where rooms would go and just did the exterior as I thought it would look good. So I really struggled trying to figure out where to put which room, especially because I wanted to use stairs, because I think it would be really odd to have ladders in a build like this one. And in the end, I found a solution for placing the staircases efficiently, so I'm pretty pleased how it turned out. So as you can see, this build has 3 large balconies and a rather big deck here, including this outdoor dining area. So in general, I tried to keep certain areas of this build more open, like the dining area here or the balcony, and which you will see later on, also the second floor, which also features a more open room concept. So this house has 10 rooms in total, and I'm not considering the toilets here as extra rooms because they're just a toilet in the 2x1 room, and I simply separated them because, at least to my knowledge, in Japanese culture, it's usual to have the toilet separated from the rest of the bathroom, and I think the reason for that is so that you could use both rooms at the same time, which makes sense. So just to give you a quick overview on what rooms to expect in this house. So we have 3 bedrooms here, of which the master bedroom is on the 3rd floor and 1 additional bedroom on each of the remaining floors. There are also 3 bathrooms here, of which 2 are full bathrooms and 1 is a half bathroom. There's 1 living room area on the 2nd floor, which is basically just 1 big open space, which we will see later on. There's of course also a kitchen and the dining area inside, with an additional dining area outside. And then there's finally the mystery basement, which was the last room I added to this build, which I initially didn't plan to, but I think it turned out quite nice. So as you can see, I also did some rather extensive landscaping here, as I usually like to do, and the core element here was basically this large pond area, which is surrounded by trees and bushes, as you can see here. So the majority of the lot is actually the pond area, because the house is also partially built on water, as you can see here. So when I do the landscaping on Japanese inspired builds, I always try to consider how these builds would look in real life if they could exist, like maybe this house, not so much, but other builds that I did. And it's kind of hard to describe, but for me, Japanese landscaping is basically all about creating a very natural garden area here, but in a very controlled way. So it's kind of hard to explain, but that's at least how I perceive it. And that's also how I try to incorporate this into my builds. So this is now the last part of the exterior. We have this kind of bridge or dock here, which leads to a roofed area from which you can overlook the pond. I also used these debug gates, which I think are usually used as the entrance to a shrine, but I like the look of them, so I placed them on the bridge just to create some additional detail here, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. So there's not much to see in this area. I also used a different gate here as the support pillars here for the roofing. So this area is mainly for looks and doesn't really have a function here. And then we have a different entrance basically to the lot here, from which you could also reach the house. I'm not sure what happened to the flooring here, why it's elevated, but I tried to place the lot from the gallery and it worked just fine. So if you want to place this, there shouldn't be any issues. Personally, I really like using Snow Escape for landscaping because it offers a variety of different debug plants and objects. It worked really well for creating gardens like this one here, which of course makes sense because the pack is basically all around creating Japanese inspired builds like this one here, which is of course not authentic, but I tried my best to capture the essence of Mount Komorebi and put all that I've learned from different builds here and from the general aesthetic of the world into this build to make it as fitting as possible. So with the exterior being finished, I want to move on to the interior. So this is the entry hall here, nothing too special to see. And here we have the staircase to the basement and the staircase to the first floor. This room was especially hard to furnish because there was a lot of space but not enough to actually place anything of interest, so I tried to just keep it simple here. And this is the kitchen area, which was basically the hardest part for me to furnish because I wanted the kitchen to be modern but also traditional looking, so I applied a lot of wood elements like these cedar bars here that I like using a lot, but also some more modern appliances like the fridge or the exhaust hood here. I feel like I might have used too many clutter objects here, but in the end I like the look of it, so I kept them. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the kitchen. Moving on, this is the dining area here. Just a small table. I had a bigger one initially, but I had to remove it because one of the chairs was not accessible here, and for me it's quite important that my belts are actually usable, most of the time at least. This here is the first bedroom, which is on the first floor here, and I think this room would be suitable for like a teenager maybe. It has everything you would need for gameplay as well, and is also fully functional. Of course, there's a bed, we have a computer, and some additional sitting space. These two rooms here are the hallway next to the entrance area, and here we have our first bathroom, which offers a shower and a bathtub here, and next to it you can see the toilet, which is, as I said before, just a very small 2x1 room. Moving on to the second floor, this is the second bedroom. I would say this one is also for a teenager, maybe a teenage girl, because this one here is more girly, I would say, but I like this one more than the lower one. However, this one is a bit smaller than the lower one. I really like this wall art here because I just discovered it, even though it's base game. I don't know when it was added, but I really like it. And this is the more open area I was talking about earlier. So we have here the entrance to the bedroom, and this is more of an office or just sitting area here, which I tried to keep more open as I mentioned before. So we also have a chess area here, which is nothing too special, but I wanted to use all the space that I had here. And here we have the half bathroom, which only has a toilet and a sink in here, and I was thinking this could be some kind of guest bathroom. Maybe a guest bedroom would have been nice, but there just wasn't enough space. Moving on from the outdoor sitting area here to the actual living room, which is part of this more open area on the second floor. Through this door to the right you can access the second balcony, which is also connected to the second bedroom on the second floor. Wow, a lot of seconds here. And this is the last bedroom, which is also the master bedroom on the third floor. I really struggled here because, as I said, I wanted to keep this modern but also traditional, so I tried to figure out how to do that. I also tried to keep the rooms as bright as possible, and I personally really like this room here. So this is now the basement, which I was talking about earlier, and this room wasn't part of the initial build because I added it once it was finished, just because I thought it would be a nice addition to the build. So I decided to add this underground spa area here, which I hope you like as much as I do, because this took me ages, just because I was trying to consider stuff like containing the moist air in the room so it wouldn't go up the stairs and into the living space, because mold would be a real problem here. I think all the wood elements here don't make a lot of sense, but if you're treated with like varnish, they would probably be water repellent anyway. So this is the last bathroom here, which I said has also a separate 2x1 toilet here, and this is the actual heart of this room, the hot spring bath here, which I really like. I think it looks great with the gravel. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. See you next time. Peace out. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another Sims 4 video on my channel. Today we're building a small island home here in Solani, which is not really an island home because, as you probably know, we don't have the option of building islands here, even though we have the terrain tool. But unfortunately, on water lots, this tool is disabled for whatever reason. I think it would just interfere with the game too much, so they just decided to scrap it completely on these lots. So my initial plan was to use a foundation to create some kind of artificial island here and then disguise it with a lot of rocks and plants. But this was really difficult because rocks keep jumping around when you try to place them next to the platform. So I decided to go for a less natural look and make this also less realistic by just pretending someone built a kind of artificial island here with these rocks, which were basically here, which I think was the right decision because I really like the end result of this build. It's one of my all-time favorite micro homes I've done so far. So if you want to download this, my gallery ID is in the description below as always. But maybe I should give you a bit more information on this build beforehand. So this would qualify as a micro lot if you have tiny living. So you might want to consider the perks you get from that, and it also uses only one pack, which is Island Living, so you can download it with base game and Island Living only, no other packs required. So Island Living is actually one of my favorite packs of all time because it gives us one of the best worlds here in the game and also some of the best normal objects and also debug objects, as you can see here. Most of the plants I use in this build are debug objects, except for the palm trees and I think some of the flowers, which are from base game. So because we can't use the terrain tool here and also no terrain paint, I couldn't work on the ground as much as I would usually, as you can see here. So I had to come up with a different idea how I could add those patches of grass in between the sand. So I decided to go for green flooring, which is actually I think considered as grass, and then covered it with some more plants to give it a bit more texture. And I also added a lot of these rocks to kind of create some natural border from the sand to the grass area, which in my opinion looked very nice. I usually don't use the redstones because they don't fit most of the time, but here I think they work very well with the red foundation. But unfortunately I changed it out to the normal more bluish one, which I think just fits the whole build a bit better. However, I kept the redstones afterwards because this build should be fun, it should be really colorful and less serious, so I decided just to use whatever I like. And I think what I was going for here was someone kind of found this place and decided, yeah, I'm gonna build my own personal paradise here. I really wanted this place to be as remote as possible, but as you can see, we're like 10 meters from the shore, so it's not really a remote island, but we don't have the option of creating a lonely island somewhere out in the ocean of Solani, which is unfortunate. I think they should add a lot, which is only water, maybe with an island on it, so we can build our very own island homes you can only reach by boat or swimming maybe. I just think there's so much wasted potential for stuff they could do in The Sims, which is so very unfortunate. But it also helps people in being creative, I think, because we have to figure out solutions for problems we have in the game. And if we want to build something that is not your ordinary suburban family home, which is a bit different, I think you have to put the time in, which can also be fun. I actually enjoy building stuff which seems difficult or not possible and trying to figure out solutions. I mean, people have built some crazy stuff over the years since we got this game, and with every expansion people explore different possibilities and also different methods of building. So back to the build. What I actually forgot at first was a way how people could actually enter the building. So I found this ladder here and I tested it with a sim, so it works and sims have to swim here. I later added some kind of dock or bridge, which isn't functional because it's a debug object, but it looks good, so I kept it. I also added a boat, which is not only for show, it's actually usable. I tried it, but I placed it somewhere else later on, and I thought people would probably need a boat. If you live on an island, you want to go places, you take the boat. So I placed it here and removed the other small kind of rowing boat, which was here first, because I think it didn't look as good as the sailing boat, catamaran, whatever you want to call it. And what I also did here was add some furniture outside first, because I want this build to feel full, not cramped, but full. And so I actually added a lot of objects, which was kind of difficult for the landscaping, because I added so many plants and it kind of felt odd because there was nothing around, no rocks, no reef, nothing. So it was kind of difficult to make this look natural, which it really doesn't in my opinion. So I said this build is less serious and more of some kind of fun build people can use if they want to play with it. So one thing that was bothering me the whole time building until this point was the roof of the house, because it was kind of flat, it was kind of boring, but I couldn't add a second story because it would just be too tall. So I did some additional work on the roof later on because it kind of looked stupid in my opinion. And here you can see the dock I was talking about earlier. So I want to create some kind of pretended passage to the island, which is not really there because you can't use it. You have to swim there, as I said before. I also added a lot of plants and more little details to the exterior before I moved on to working on the interior, which was kind of a mess because the house is very small, which you will see later on. And to be honest, I like working on the exterior just a bit more. It's what I prefer doing. I mean, I do a lot of interior as well, especially for my shorts. So I like doing that as well, but I just prefer working on the exterior. But I mean, there are different types of Sims 4 players. There are those who prefer to build stuff, and there are those who prefer to create Sims, and there are people who just want to play the game and download stuff from other people like me. Let me know in the comments below what kind of player you are, and if you prefer doing the exterior of houses, or if you're more of a player who likes to decorate rooms. So as you can see here, the exterior was pretty much finished, and I was just adding some additional details with debug objects and also some additional plants to give it the final touch up before I moved on to the interior. But first I wanted to work on the roof because, as I said, it was just a mess. It was boring, it was flat, so I just added a second roof on top of it to create some kind of porch roof, which looks so much better in my opinion. You can see I also added some additional wallpaper just to have a bit of contrast, and I was pretty happy how the roof turned out at this point. And I was just rearranging some of the objects here. I put the catamaran somewhere else. You can't really see it here because I cut it out. It's in the back now. And then I moved on to the interior, and the first thing I noticed was this giant rock poking through the wall, so I had to do something about this first before I could actually do the interior. And I tried to move it around. I liked the position from the outside, but it was just clipping through the wall too much. But eventually I figured out where to put it, and I started to place down some lights because it was very dark in here. And then I placed a double bed, which was probably not the best decision because this house is very small. I think like 15 square meters, so double bed seems a bit too much for it, but I really like the style of it, and I'm not even sure if there is a single bed from the Island Living expansion. So those of you who have watched more of my longer videos are probably aware that I tend to jump around a lot while building from the interior to the exterior and back, just because I have some ideas that I want to do right away, and therefore I move around a lot while building. I hope this is not too distracting for you. Anyway, I went back outside and started adding some more plants because even though I said this should be more of a fun build and less realistic, I still wanted it to be somewhat realistic, if that makes any sense. And therefore I wanted to have some more fluid transitions between the build and the surrounding ocean. I also lowered the platform on the foundation just by one, so I could have some kind of additional border around it just to add a little more detail as always. And it added this very nice stone border around the house, which I really like, and it also made the whole thing look a bit more realistic in my opinion as well. So because of this I had to rearrange some of the objects, especially the fences, which are debug objects by the way, in case you're wondering. And then I noticed that I had no space for a bathroom, so I had to move the whole lot to the front just to have a bit more space in the back, because there was no way I could fit a bathroom in the house. So in case you're wondering why I was rearranging the whole lot, basically I wanted to do an outdoor toilet, so I had to move it more to the front because there was no space in the back anymore. And as you can see here, I added an additional kind of dock where the toilet would be. So I'm not sure if I would want to use one of those, but I think it's just hilarious that the toilet is outside and you have a very nice view on the ocean of Sulani. So you're probably wondering where's the shower, and at first I thought, yeah, well, we don't have a shower, people just go and swim in the ocean and they're clean, but in reality this wouldn't work because of the salt probably. And I was thinking, do people get clean in Sims, because I don't know when they go swimming, and as I wasn't sure, I just wanted to add a shower. So we have a shower inside, which you will see later on. So the main problem here for not having a bathroom was basically not only the space constriction we had, but also that there were so many windows and the kind of odd shape of the house, so we couldn't really have a separate bathroom there. And that's why the toilet is outside and the shower is basically in the living room, which is also kind of weird. But so I used to shower from the Island Living expansion, which has some kind of catch basin, if that is the right word. And so it actually makes kind of sense to put it inside. But before I actually placed the shower where it would be, I just started to rearrange the kitchen area, and also I wanted to create a dining area first where you could actually sit. And as you know me, I want to have two chairs because one is weird and this was also very problematic for a small build like this one. Also, the direction of the bat is kind of weird, but in the end, I wanted to be this way just because I think if I had a big window like this one, I would want to see the ocean when I'm lying in bed and not my front door. So it's basically like this, which also worked out with the dining area, and then I added the shower I was talking about before. I then started playtesting the lot, which you can of course not see here because this is a speed build. And it was kind of weird because at the very moment something called Power Preservation Week or something like that started, and the lights went out, which was weird because I didn't know what was going on at first, and I was just wondering why it's so dark in here. So I had to go back to my sim and fast forward time to get the lights back on because I didn't know what was going on at first. So after the lights were back on, I started to add some additional details around the house and also outside, of course. And you can see the window to the right here, which was basically the main reason I couldn't have a separate bathroom, because the wall would just go right through it, and I wanted to keep the window just because I really liked it there. I then proceeded to add even more objects to the exterior just because that's what I always do. When decorating, I always find stuff I want to use somewhere else. So inside I used a lot of those kind of traditional Solani wall decorations, which are very nice, and some fruit for the table here. I also placed down a ceiling fan, which I usually don't do because I think they're just in the way when you're playing, but I think it's very fitting for this particular kind of build just because Solani is a very warm tropical region. I also added some of those small ceiling lights just because I wanted the build to be very bright when you're actually playing with it, so you can see stuff, because it was kind of dark in there even though we had already placed 2 ceiling lights and also a lot of windows, especially the big one, but there wasn't much light coming in for whatever reason. So as you can see here, I wanted to add a bookshelf as well, but it didn't really fit the style of the build, and there was also not much space, and I'm not even sure if it would be functional here. In the end, I removed it just because there was no space. So you could probably place a wall-mounted bookshelf somewhere, but I didn't want to use the ones from base game. And there is none for island living, so I just omitted the bookshelf. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing if you want to see more. You can of course download this build, it's on the gallery. My ID is in the description below as always. See you next time. Peace out.